que salta del cómic al...
He thought he was in control. How wrong he was.
Hey, what's up? Shane with Dynamics Media. I'm joined here with Stefan.
Cut my life into pieces.
And you're tuning into the Dark Side Drive-In, which is our new metal it's our horror theme podcast where we cover movies from the 80s, sometimes 90s, and maybe sometime soon the 70s. We don't know.
Who knows? Today. We'll find out. Also, maybe I should have waited until we talked more about what the movie was before I did my Papa Roach bit.
No, I think you should just keep we might not even say what the movie is. You should just keep doing Papa Roach. Like, can you do another Papa Roach song? This will be good.
No, I cannot.
You can't think of any other Papa Roach song.
No, I can't. I can hear your dog.
I can too.
But no, I cannot think of another Papa Roach song. I'm one of those, like, that's why, like, you know, like, whenever, like, dudes will come up to like women with like a band shirt and be like, do you even know three songs by that band? That's why I never wear a Papa Roach shirt, because I only know the one.
How many Papa Roach shirts do you own?
That's zero. That's why
okay.
That's why I don't buy them. I don't want a bunch of guys coming up to me and being like, how do you feel about this song? And they'll name a song and I'll be like, it's great. And they'll be like, that's not even a Papa Roach song. That was I Am the Walrus. That's not even the same band. It's like, oh no, I should have known. That's a famous band.
Well, if fans of new metal haven't guessed it, our movie today is The Nest, not They Nest.
Not They Nest.
And there was another Nest that came out in 2020. It was like a reprise, or
that Nest is different. That looks like it's some kind of fancy stuff. That's like a movie that looks like a book. So I don't know that one very well.
It's like a bird watching movie.
No, it just seems like it's like serious. Like, we're not here for that. We're here for the killer roaches. We're not here for that.
We're here for the killer roaches. So we're talking about this is my fault. I said 1987 online. Stefan helped me out here. It is 1988.
It was produced in 1987, and that is the production date, but the release date is 1988. And as we know, the release date is the date that we count here.
It's what everyone counts. So, you know, but, I think some quick housekeeping. We have another project that we're finalizing that you should all hear about soon. No other news from the other shows. AGB, Angry Green Balloon, who's on Twitch, he's still kind of rocking and going strong. I'm trying to think. We are friends of the show, Rebel Revolver. They are helping us with a new theme song, which we're pretty stoked about. So more to come on that. Yeah, I think that's all we have. You should see, by the time you hear this episode, you should see another review written by the man, the myth, the legend, Stefan himself, about Godzilla +1.
This is embarrassing, but it's actually Godzilla -1.
Just checking, make sure you're listening. So you should see that on our website. And I will blast out the review on our socials. So follow us on Instagram, Twitter, or X, whatever the fuck it's called now. Facebook. Facebook's my new favorite. So go to Facebook. Instagram's a dumpster fire. We have a lot of, honestly, like, the other thing is, thank you for everyone supporting us. We picked up a lot of fans over Christmas, which is kind of crazy because I thought Halloween would have been our time of the season, but apparently it's Christmas. But so thank you to everyone for the kind words, the listens, the reviews, the likes. If you think that any of your friends would like this, go ahead, share it. But yeah, I think that's the only thing I have, the shameless self plug.
Well, it's it's during the holiday season. You have all that, like, this atmosphere of like holiday cheer and like togetherness, and it's like, I need to combat these good feelings with some dark feelings. So let's do some horror stuff. Let's have some garbage day up in here.
God, that movie is so good.
Sorry, I don't want to step on whatever you're just doing, but I was just looking up whenever you called me out for not paying attention to you, You were almost right. I actually was listening at the end. But like the Nest, there's a Nest in 2020 and the Nest in 2021. There were two The Nests within a year, and the one that looked like a book is the psychological thriller that came out in 2020. But the one in 2021 looks like it also involves bugs. So
Oh no.
I'm gonna have to see if I can find that and put it in the instant queue or whatever the version is in any given streaming service.
Cue it up. Well, I guess anyone that hates bugs, we probably should have warned you last time, but I thought from the photo that I posted online and the title, you would have understood that you probably shouldn't watch this movie if you have bug issues.
Bugs are involved, and also animals die. Like, I feel like there's way too many times where dogs die. Yeah, but this time, like, even like a cat dies. It's like,
that's like our running theme.
Yeah, I was thinking about it. Like, I was thinking about throwing up something on social media. Just be, hey, if you're sensitive to animals getting pets getting killed, maybe you don't want to watch this. But I'm like, I hope we don't have followers that are insensitive to pets being killed, because I don't really want them listening. If you love it when beloved animals are murdered, please stop listening.
Well, I think beloved's a tough, maybe pets. We'll just say pets. Pets are killed.
That's what I said.
Yeah, sure. So I have a ton of opinions about this. I know you do. We are, again, my fault procrastinating. This is on me, but
we're filming the night before release. Is that what you're about to get at?
Night before release.
You absolute psychopath.
Because I am an absolute psychopath. Yeah, I'm excited to get into this one. I'm not to get ahead of ourselves. I'm so excited for our next movie. And I can't wait to talk about it. But so I think
a movie you just found out existed like a calendar hour
No, you've
ago.
Talked about it though. So here's the thing.
I have talked to you about this movie before.
Yeah, I've never seen it, but you have talked about it for a solid, how long have I known? For a long time. So yeah, it's good stuff. I'm trying to think. So if anyone has submissions, they're like, hey, like you should check out this movie. We had a couple people suggest some stuff that I want to rotate in. Probably going to try to get to those. We have the next couple kind of planned out that we're talking about, but if you have any good suggestions, let us know, because just to inside baseball, like before we record, we kind of like, okay, what are we going to do next? And we go through the gamut of what's on our watch list and all this stuff. So it helps us if you could throw in some suggestions, because, it add it into the rotation. So it helps us out, because sometimes we pick stuff we like and we kind of go on tracks, and you'll see the pattern, right? So
yeah,
it helps us.
It'll become clear what we're doing.
Yeah. Right. Or we just get together and get drunk and watch weird movies, and then whatever auto plays next is what we watch. And then we're like, hey, maybe we should do this one. And halfway through the movie, it gets a little weird and we have to not do that one. So looking at you,
brain damage.
Brain damage.
Yeah. Brain damage.
Dude, I don't think we can do that. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I don't think so. I don't know. I could rewatch it maybe with clearer eyes. I could have a different opinion, but I doubt it. That movie was difficult.
I'm going to say this for how drunk we were, and for us while we were drunk to say, I don't think it's a good one.
It must be pretty bad. Yeah.
It must be pretty bad. So, there are a couple really wild scenes in that movie though, that I absolutely, I was so taken aback by, like, I don't even want to spoil it. Are we ever going to do it?
I mean, I would, it's not high on my list, but every once in a while it does cross like my queue again, or like my suggestions. I'm like, it would be an interesting conversation for sure, but there's also a lot of baggage attached to it because of what happens in it.
So like, I guess like we're already kind of open the can. So like there's a parasite that can infect you. It's like an Egyptian parasite, but literally the parasite in the movie talks to people.
It comes out, and it's like,
and it's very alarming.
It's very alarming.
Because the first time it happens, because the theme of, like, I don't want to say the theme, like the I don't know, like just like kind of the whole atmosphere of the movie up until when it talks to you is like super serious, and then this just parasite comes out and starts talking. It kind of ruins the whole thing, and then it does some other stuff that is questionable.
It's jarring, and then it just continues to jar. It jars you, and then it just gets you with more jars.
Yeah. But speaking of jars, because kids like to put stuff in jars like bugs. So what are we getting into? Like, let's do the cast and crew. I'm excited to hear your take on some of these people.
Au contraire, mon frere. I do believe we have to play your game. And we have to find out if the listeners were right or if I was right about what
I'm not even going to
was.
edit out my faux pas.
You better
I
not.
might even have to do an apology. I even have a new one picked out and everything. It's right in front of me.
You got ahead of yourself there. So you pulled a me, ignoring my McMurder the movie.
I pulled a me. Okay, so everyone's favorite segment, why they're here.
They turn it off after we do the question. Yeah.
So last time we did trivia, and the question was, in which 1973 movie does Donald Sutherland pursue a mysterious figure in a red coat? And what was your answer?
Don't Look Now. And
you are correct.
Hell yeah, it was.
Yeah. And you were so sure about it. And I like, and we even went into some other stuff about like
that movie. I know that movie. Yeah. I had a story about it.
So yeah, it's a good one. I think, will we ever cover that movie? It's a good movie.
I don't really think it's kind of
our thing.
Yeah. It's a little bit more serious. It's not to say that we can't dive into more serious stuff, but I kind of want to keep our stuff a little more light than that. That movie's like about a couple whose marriage is broken by the untimely death of their daughter, and like the grief they go through as he believes he's seeing his daughter. Like, it's a little bit heavy. Yeah, it's not as fun as like, hey, here's a lady who's like the queen of the werewolves or something. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, here's a lady who has sex with all his hair glued all over her. So every time
we bring it up, you have to go back to that.
It's terrible, and they never should have made that.
Nope.
Anyways, okay, so that's such an unfair one. So the next game, we had 3, right? So we do trivia, we do name that movie, and we do describe it. I'm skipping order and going to describe it. So last time we did describe it, it was the Paranormal Activity question. And I was giving out clues based on like what I thought about the movie, and I couldn't say the forbidden words.
Oh yeah, it was movie taboo.
Yeah. So I think it's actually funnier to use the forbidden words, and those are the only clues you get, because some of them are so vague. And I went through all the cards and I'm looking at them, and like they'll be like directors and stuff, but most of the time that it shows a director, it's either like Romero, Rami, or Raimi, sorry. Who's the other? Carpenter. Like, those are only 3 directors. So like one of the ones, and we'll never do this one, it says it's the fog, and the first clue is the word you can't say is fog. And I'm like, okay, well, that obviously, but I think it'd be funnier if we just did, because there's only 3 forbidden words, and I'm telling you, I think it's going to be harder to get these based off the forbidden words, because they're almost all the same. So, okay, so this is going to be fun, I think. So here it is. All right, so we're doing spooky taboo. Okay. So here's your first, and now here's the other thing, Stefan. I'm going to do the first hint, and I want you to just like just say a movie that you're thinking of, and then we'll add another hint, and then you can change your answer, right? Okay.
All right, just making this thing more and more complicated as we go, as I see.
Yeah. Oh, trust me, it'll work. Trust me.
All right, go for it.
All right. So first clue. Paranormal.
All right. Ghostbusters.
Okay. All right. Second clue. Ghost.
Still feel like Ghostbusters works. Do I have to change it? Do I have to change it? I guess I'll say Poltergeist.
You don't have to change it.
No, I'm going to change it. Say Poltergeist. Let's see
if you want to stay with Ghostbusters. I just want to let you know this is a horror game. So.
Ghostbusters is scary, dude.
I'm the keymaster.
All right.
Okay. So the second clue was ghost.
No, the second clue is ghost. Okay. Paranormal, ghost. So, all right, go on.
So the third and final clue is haunted.
And that's all I have to go off of?
Which is so funny. Yeah, and then maybe I'll do a fourth clue. that will bring it all in to perspective, because I want you to succeed. But
because I'm thinking like Poltergeist, Amityville Horror, like I'm thinking like Haunting of Hill House. I don't know what era it is. Like, it could be Hell House. Then
so that's the clue I'm going to give you is the timeline.
Okay,
that's fair, right?
Fair enough. I mean, as fair as it gets, I guess.
Okay, dude. The Ghostbusters hit every single one of these categories, and I think that's so funny. Okay. Do you want like a decade? How do you want to do that?
I don't know. I feel like that because of how vague this is, can I at least get a year? Would you be willing to go to the year?
Ooh, I think if I do the year, you'll get it.
Is it too much? All right, I guess do the decade. But like, there's
okay,
any number of movies in a
this will be the guinea pig. Okay.
All right, let's see how this works.
This is a 2010 to 2015 movie. Okay.
Wait.
And the clues were
what?
Good.
It's that.
That's the 5-year window is between 2010 and 2015.
Okay.
And if it gets too hard, I'll give you the year. So, I'll tell you what, it's 2013. That's the movie. That's the year of the movie is 2013. So the clues were paranormal, ghost, haunted, and the year the movie was released was 2013.
All right. So
no Googling.
My phone isn't even by me. Oh wait, it is by me. But 2013. I'm gonna probably go with. All right. That was when those ones were getting big. The James Wan stuff, and the Warren family ones were just starting to come out. I'm pretty much between Annabelle, Insidious, or The Conjuring. I think I'm gonna go with The Conjuring. That's what I'm gonna say.
Okay.
So lock it in.
Lock it in, The Conjuring. So we'll post it on Facebook, and you all can listen along and try to make some guesses. And next time we'll let you know if you're correct. So thank you for remembering. I can't believe I forgot, but hey, what are you gonna do? I blame the Uncle Nearest whiskey that I've been drinking. So
shout out to Shane's Whiskey.
Free sponsorship. Yeah. So all right.
So
well, now that we got the game,
stay tuned next time, or stay peeled next time to see if I was right or not. And also, we'll put it on the Facebook group, right, and let people do their guesses. Although that's going to be like major honor system. Like, y'all better not just be Googling that year and like the word ghost, like 2013 ghost movie. It's like, although any given year, that's the problem. Like any given year, there's so many ghost movies that come out. I just went for the heaviest hitters I could remember from like the 2010s to mid 2010s era. The whatever you call that, the 2000 teens.
Tweens. So hey, final piece of housekeeping. The shirt stuff is coming, I promise. I swear to God. I know some of you have messaged me like, get me a shirt, asshole.
You don't have to, you don't have to bring it up every time and remind everyone.
Well, I feel bad because like a couple of our friends, like actual friends in real life, have messaged me like, hey, I want a shirt. I think one shirt I'm gonna design, and you can steal this, whatever, or design it for me and send it to me. Thank God, please. Is Stay Peeled, and we'll just have like a peeled like skeleton or a human. Put our logo over it. I think it'd be kind of funny. So, yeah. You like that?
A peeled skeleton or human? You mean there's like the flesh is rendered?
Yeah, right. That's funny, right? But like do one of those things where it's like the frog where it's like pinned and there's like little lines going through it.
Yeah.
I'm fucking unhinged, guys. Like, here's the other thing about that you need to know. I dial it back a lot when I'm doing this show. And like, I did the Christmas episode and I was putting in all the music. I made all those weird noises and shit. Like, not me personally. I found clips and, free shit. And I spliced it over the Christmas music. And I called Stefan. I'm like, hey, I need you to like keep me in check here. Are we in good? So.
And I absolutely will not. I will not stop you from the crazy stuff.
Yeah, so maybe stay peeled for that shirt because if we make it, I'm literally I might give those away. So
You do know a peeled skeleton and a peeled human are basically the same thing. Once it's peeled,
okay,
it's
hold on.
skeleton.
So a skeleton shows the bone. I'm thinking like peeled flesh. You just see the muscles and stuff.
Oh, you want to see the sinew?
Yeah, sinew.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're a gross person, dude.
I'm a rude dude with tons of tude. So let's
Anyway,
get this move. Yeah.
Speaking of a New England town that gets taken over by carnivorous,
Is it New
unkillable
England?
roaches.
All right.
It is, yeah, man. It I looked it up because it wasn't filmed in New England, and but it is meant
Right.
to be. It is meant to be like
It's filmed in California, right?
Yeah, I mean it always
Yeah,
is.
for
Yeah.
sure.
I think it was
Losers.
filmed partially somewhere else, probably some of the exterior stuff because there's not a lot of coastlines that look like New England coastlines in
Yeah.
California. At least I assume not. But then again, California's huge, so I'm sure they have
It is.
all sorts of biomes. But
I
yeah,
don't know
no,
how their lighthouse game is either.
that I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how their lighthouses are going. I mean, I assume they needed them. So, it wasn't like they were discovered like in like 1970. But yeah, maybe they don't have as many lighthouses on random islands. Because as we all know, our friends know, and now our friends via this show will know that it's my longtime dream to live in like a New England fishing village. Maybe I'll be in a lighthouse. Maybe I'll be on a fishing boat. Either way, that's the dream, baby. Just take me to
You'll battle in attack.
sleep. Yeah, battle in tech, battle like. Yeah, that's the thing is like all these movies, it's like always one thing or another, and I love that it's like a proud tradition that's continued because even like what was that show that came out on Netflix a couple years back, Midnight Mass. It's like, well, we're gonna deal with roaches. I'm gonna deal with vampires. No matter what happens, these like sleepy seaside fishing villages, things never go well for them. But man, to be there when it happens,
to live, to breathe.
like I'll spend all my days just like going out on the boat if that's my job, catching fish all day or crabbing or whatever people do. I don't like seafood, so that's not part of the fantasy. And then coming back, going to the local like diner for dinner or like the local tavern for a drink with my fellow sea dogs. Until one day the supernatural finally comes. It could even be like the fog, it can be spooky ghosts from the ocean. I don't care what it is, but I'll be there and I'll be ready for all these years of experience watching these movies. Every sort of horror that I can imagine, I'll be prepared for it. What were we doing again? Oh yeah, we're gonna talk about the movie.
Yeah. You'll never escape the Prowler, though. So.
Well, yeah, okay, fair enough. Like he'll get
Just
me.
saying.
Well, no, but here's the thing. I'm not his target victim type, so that actually I hope it's not a prowler. I hope it's something cool like murderous roaches or spooky fog ghosts or humanoids
Some
from the
leaked
deep.
nuclear facility animal like mutations.
Some kind of slithis maybe, and I don't think slithis takes place on a. I don't think slithis takes place on a seaside town, but I can't remember. It's been a minute.
Yeah.
Anyhow, back to The Nest, the movie we're here to talk about. The director is Terrence H. Winkless, and he has an interesting career because he's a quadruple threat, as it were. Well, I guess just triple threat. He's a director, he's an actor, and he's a writer. So I'll include a few of his credits of each. As a director, he did Blood Fist, Not of This Earth, Lady Killer, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the original series. He did 38 episodes of that, which I'd like to know more about that because a lot of those episodes are just repurposed footage of that, like, what is it? Some kind of like, is it Super Sentai, something like that? Like it was like some kind of specific like Japanese show that they repurposed.
Correct. So he probably, if it's called Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, he did the US
the Angel
stuff.
Grove stuff. Yeah. But he also has credits for Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Ninja Quest, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Zeo, and Beetleborgs. Although only three episodes of Beetleborgs.
I love Beetleborgs.
Hell yeah, we all do. And then three episodes of Masked Rider, which was another one of those productions. And then Nightmare City 2035 is one of his recent credits, which was interesting to see. I think it was when it's called like White Wolves 2 Legend of the Wild. He was director on that, and I definitely had that on or I didn't have it on VHS, but somebody I knew, like a cousin or something, had it on VHS, and we used to watch it all the time. So it's like one of those ones that until I read the words, the memories were locked away in some kind of cabinet. But like I said, this man's a triple threat. So he's also an actor in such cinematic masterpieces as Lake Placid 2, Mega Snake, Nightmare City 2035, which he also directed, as we just heard. And then for writer, probably the biggest thing he was listed as a writer on was The Howling, like the original Joe Dante,
Yeah, right.
The Howling.
Yeah, it was crazy.
And then there's like Scorpius Gigantus, and then a couple of his own things. I think like Lady Killer, Not of This Earth, and Nightmare City 2035. I think all of those. Speaking of writer, we have a couple of writing credits here. One is Eli Cantor, who is the author of the book that this was based off of, which I didn't look much more into his career. I just checked if there are any other like credits on IMDb for like books of his that got turned into movies, and there weren't. But here's the thing: if like ever I write a book and it gets turned into a movie, and I write another book and it doesn't, got one, you know. So he doesn't
got him.
He doesn't need to have more. He's got
Ladies
the one.
and gentlemen, we got him.
We got him. Is that one of the? Is that something from? Was that when George W. Bush, when Saddam Hussein was captured?
Obama. We killed him.
Was that Obama when he killed Osama bin Laden? I thought it was George W. Bush when Saddam Hussein was captured.
I don't know. Should we look?
We'll put a pin in that and go to the other writer, which is Robert King, not related to Stephen King as far as I can tell. Also writer on Blood Fist, which was directed by the director. See, everything fits together. The world makes sense. Phantom of the Mall, Eric's Revenge, Cutthroat Island, which is for a time was one of the most like famous flops in all of moviedom. I think it's just like a charming little movie. I don't think it's so bad, but then Vertical Limit, and then most recently The Good Wife, The Good Fight, and Evil, which are all television programs, and he has listed as not just a writer on those, but a co-creator of the series. And then also he directed a few episodes of The Good Wife, The Good Fight, and Evil. So the shows that he created or co-created, I think he co-created them with his wife, if I'm not mistaken. So there you go, Robert King, still making stuff to this day.
We're just gonna glance over Vertical Limit, or
I can't remember if I know what Vertical Limit is. Is that the rock climbing movie?
Yes, it is the rock climbing movie. It's so good.
With Chris O'Donnell, isn't it? Like,
yes. Scott Glenn, Chris O'Donnell, Bill Paxton. Hold your tongue.
I was gonna glance over it. I didn't know.
One of the best rock climbing movies next to Cliffhanger.
Yeah, and then what's the third? What's the other one?
Mission Impossible. The intro, he's like climbing on the.
I was gonna say Ace Ventura, When Nature Calls.
That's actually, you know what? That's number one.
He's rescuing that raccoon. Cinematic greatness, truly.
Oh God!
I actually unapologetically like Ace Ventura: When Nature Calls, and I think that it's only aided by the fact that the first Ace Ventura has like that unexpected and in modern times jarring transphobia. So it's really nice that we have When Nature Calls to fall back on. We just get more slapstick sight gags and less like troubling and anachronisms.
That's funny. So if you scroll down under Vertical Limit, they have a list of rock climbing movies that fucking, for what reason, I don't know. But it's K2, Cliffhanger, and Everest are the ones that it suggests for you. So.
Oh, I forgot K2. I always mix up K2 with K-19, the submarine movie.
Well, you know, what's stupid with K2 is they made sequels. And it's like, okay, if you're going to make a sequel, why would you name the movie K2 to start with? So is it K22? It's not. They just put like hyphens and shit after it. It's like The Impossible Descent or The Siren of the Himalayas. It's like, okay.
Wasn't that because that's the name of the mountain?
I get it. I understand. But like you could have like
K22 20 more.
At that point, I think that's even funnier, right?
Yeah, but I don't think they're going for like a Naked Gun naming style. I think they're actually
going for like an Out Cold vibe. You know what I mean? Like the old. I love that movie. All right, we are spiraling.
Yeah, you're gonna have to cut out so much of this. All right, back to what we were doing.
I'm not cutting out shit.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess we are on the clock. What are you going to do? Spend your entire day editing this thing? Anywho,
If I have to.
The music is Rick Conrad, who actually has a few credits, unlike a couple of these times we've had some folks that didn't have any others. Crime Zone, The Terror Within, which is actually an interesting kind of weird post-apocalyptic movie. I've watched it a few times. Amityville Horror, The Evil Escapes, Watchers 2, The Hit List, Cloned, The Recreator Chronicles. I don't know if that's like one in a series of cloned chronicles or if that's just what that one is called. And I don't have the time to look it up. So next up, special.
Well, so
okay.
Did you bring up his Alfred Hitchcock stuff?
He did score an episode of Alfred Hitchcock Presents. I wasn't going to bring it up because it was only one episode.
Yeah, but I think that because like that was his first, like, so like
that was his first credit. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's like Alfred Hitchcock, because when he created his movies, a lot of his horror or his jump scares and stuff were done through like music, right?
Yeah, the stings. A lot of musical stings.
Yeah, so I think it's, to me, it's kind of important that he kind of did some work on that, because I think that kind of shows his chops.
Well, I'm more than happy to admit that I don't know enough about like the show Alfred Hitchcock Presents, like how involved he was, how much it, aped his style, like how prestigious it was to be a part of it. I brought it up before for people, and there are actually a handful of people on this list that have the cast list for this that have credits on an episode of Alfred Hitchcock Presents. I just don't usually bring up if they're just like a one-off in an episode. But yeah. I think that with anthology series like that, though, it's a little bit more like prominent to be a one-off.
So like when you say like how much he was involved, you mean Alfred Hitchcock or?
Yeah, Alfred Hitchcock. Yeah.
Well, he was dead before the show came out.
What?
Yeah. So like, because I think it's just they just kind of redid his movies, right?
I don't know anything about it.
They're remakes. I don't think they're.
He wasn't like the host of it or something. I thought that he was like a host. It was like in his later years.
No. Well, I think you're thinking. So Alfred Hitchcock Presents, the original, was from 55 to 62, where he was the host. So our boy.
You're right. That's what I'm mixing up. Yeah.
So in the late 80s, they redid all of his, like, they basically redid the show and like remade it.
You're absolutely right. I did not realize that. Every time I've brought it up, I thought we were talking about the original, which.
No. And I think that's what's interesting, like about like, especially Alfred Hitchcock, because I love Alfred Hitchcock. And I know we don't dip back that far into our history. Because we're afraid that we won't be able to make it back out, but you can't go back that far, guys.
We have to go back. By the way, like, not to derail us even further, but what's your favorite Alfred Hitchcock movie? Go.
The Birds.
Really,
dude? Yeah.
Interesting.
I mean, what's yours?
Rear Window.
Man, that's a good one too.
Mm-hmm.
I think for me it's The Birds, and like I just. That's such a, like, I don't trust birds. So like that to me is like a real thing that could happen.
It was great. I just feel like it's aged a little bit more harshly. Like some of the green screen stuff he had to do. Although all those scenes of Tippi Hedren getting tortured by birds were real because he was torturing her with birds, like pelting her with like dead birds and stuff.
So like a lot of people would probably say Psycho right off the bat.
Oh, interesting.
I like the Rear Window pull. I'll be honest with you though. It is a very close, like the close second for me is Vertigo. I love that movie. I love Vertigo.
Are you ready for something real fast?
Okay, good.
Never seen it. You ready?
No.
You ready for something even more? It's on
what?
It's on DVD behind me on my shelf right now as we speak.
You've never seen Vertigo?
No, and it's literally at my fingertips. I can watch it anytime I want.
So good, dude. North by Northwest is good, but I think Vertigo is just.
I like North by Northwest, but for me, it always comes down to Rear Window. I think Rear Window is such a fun, interesting take, and so cool to see like Jimmy Stewart, playing a character like that, like so against his like Frank Capra type,
Yeah, that's fair. The Man Who Knew Too Much was a great one.
Also true.
Man, maybe we should do a block of Hitchcock. I don't know.
I think we have to earn that. I don't think we've earned it yet.
I don't think we've earned it either. My mom would go crazy. She loves Hitchcock. That's like her.
You might have to cut out this entire conversation then, so as to not like lay the groundwork for something that may not happen.
No, I'm not going to do it.
But anyways, yeah, thanks for that hot tip though about Alfred Hitchcock Presents, because I did not realize there was a second show, and that's where probably most of these people were. Well, not the older actors who we talk about, but some of the newer ones probably.
I think this is the first one that you've said that was in the new one.
Okay, fair enough.
Because most of the movies we're doing come out before 86. So there's only like 4 that we've done that possibly could have probably fallen into that category.
Whew, thank you, linear.
5.
Thank you, linear nature of time. I appreciate that.
So,
but how about I get back to the nest, not they nest. I knew I was going to say they nest. All right, for the audience, really fast, a quick another aside. They Nest is like a 1999 or 2000 movie that's basically the same idea. And for some reason, I watched it when I was a kid, and every time I think of The Nest, I say They Nest. And it's not what I mean. I don't mean They Nest. It wasn't very good. So do not watch it. But it is on Tubi if you want to. And it will start immediately after The Nest if you watch The Nest. So guaranteed to have the opportunity. Anyways, special effects. We got 2 here. One is Frank Seglia and one is James M. Navarra. Frank Seglia is listed specifically for pyrotechnic effects. But I'm actually going to just read off his special effects credits because he's got some really cool credits. So here we go. Starting off strong with Steven Spielberg's 1941, gets Critters, detours to King Kong Lives, and then goes to Critters 3. So you have to assume he skipped out on Critters 2 to do King Kong Lives, which is a bummer because, as I've said many times and will say many more, Critters 2 is the best Critters. Adventures in Dinosaur City. I don't know what that is, but I love it by the title. The Lawnmower Man, famous movie. Critters 4.
So good.
Critters 4?
No.
The Lawnmower Man. Yeah.
Lawnmower Man.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, Critters 4 is good. But
Yeah, it's all right. Menace to Society, Night of the Demons 2, Dumb and Dumber, Leprechaun 3, Halloween: The Curse of Michael Myers, Hellraiser: Bloodline. So a lot of latter sequels of movies when they start to get to the point where they're bad. Pinocchio's Revenge, Scream, Leprechaun 4 in Space, which I always think is funny because Leprechaun 5 is in the hood. I always think it's funny that Leprechaun went to space before he went to the hood. Like, what are you up to, Leprechaun? Like, that's so hard to go to space. Then Sometimes They Come Back, ellipses for more, which is, I think, the third. I think it's Sometimes They Come Back, Sometimes They Come Back Again, and then Sometimes They Come Back for more. But lightening up a little bit with Smart House, the Disney Channel original movie.
that was actually good.
Yeah.
It wasn't, but
and then getting back into spookiness again with Red Dragon, Resident Evil Extinction, The Collector, Sorority Row. And here's a fun one. 41 it's actually 57 episodes of Drunk History. I was going to say 41 because he used 41 episodes as a special effects coordinator and then 16 episodes as a special effects supervisor. I'm like, how many special effects are needed for Drunk History?
I'm kind of mad at you right now.
Why?
Because you missed a couple really good ones.
Well, can I finish ones I've written down and then you can chastise me with the ones I left?
Well, I want to make sure you didn't already say them, but go ahead.
Marvel's Runaways.
Yeah.
Swamp Thing, the most recent TV show, which is super underrated and was canceled before its time. And then the most recent credit he had is like last year's, was it Rap Shit? Or do you say shit? It's SH exclamation point T.
I don't know.
Yeah.
And that's something I'm kind of too afraid to ask at this point, but
you gotta be.
Could you start your credits, start at Lawnmower Man, and then I want you to end at Leprechaun. Which Leprechaun did you bring up?
I brought up Leprechaun 3 and Leprechaun 4.
Okay, can you go between Lawnmower Man and Leprechaun 3?
Critters 4, Menace to Society, Night of the Demons 2, Dumb and Dumber, and then Leprechaun 3.
Okay.
What did I leave off that you wanted to be there?
Did you just not fucking watch Surf Ninjas as a kid?
I have no idea what that is.
Get out of here. You don't know what surf ninjas are?
No.
Or is? Are is? That would be is because we're talking about the movie. Okay. Well, have you watched Three Ninjas?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Imagine that, but the main characters are Polynesian and they listen to Van Halen and they also are really good at karate.
All right, I'm sold. Let's watch it. Next episode, we're doing surf ninjas.
So if you've never, if you're like, how the fuck do you know about surf? Like, why surf ninjas? Like, what possibly could have ever led you to the masterpiece that is Surf Ninjas? That stars Rob Schneider, by the way. You know.
So is this a bug or a feature?
Yeah. So this movie was in the credits for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Oh, wait, I've seen this.
Yeah, this movie's so fucking good.
Like when I was a kid. Yeah, I was like a little kid.
Yeah, I can't believe you skipped this. This is like one of my, when I, as a child, like if I like could picture my child, I was only like 4 when this came out, by the way. I've seen this movie. I've rented it probably at least once a month since I was between the ages of 4 and probably 15.
No, you're right. Yeah, that was the same era as like the Three Ninjas and Three
movie.
Ninjas Strike Back and all that. So yeah, I definitely, looking at the cover, I definitely have seen it. I did not see the cover in my defense.
I think this is the movie that had Baltimora Tarzan boy in it.
No, that's.
I think this is it.
No, that's Ninja Turtles, dude.
Really? I think this was in the credits. I think this is their trailer. I think it was that song. We'll have to watch it. Leslie Nielsen's in it. I'm pretty sure, right? Isn't Leslie Nielsen the bad guy?
Yes. Sorry, I'm looking at what movies. So it's, according to the internet, Tarzan Boy by Baltimore was in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3 and Beverly Hills Ninja.
Beverly Hills Ninja. Okay, so that's what I'm thinking of. But
why
so
would you think of Beverly Hills?
Hold on.
Ninja? Right.
So this is in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3 is my favorite one, which everyone hates.
Oh no.
It's not Leslie Nielsen, but
you just lost us listeners with that opinion.
Whatever. It's a good fucking movie. So
where they go back in time?
If you want to argue, yeah, they go to Japan. Oh, pizza.
But no,
fuck you.
No.
That's a good fucking movie.
It's Secret of the Ooze, dude.
I'm not gonna.
Secret of the Ooze? You serious? Toka and Razor? They're babies.
Dude, that's such a good movie. That's the whatever. Anyways, so this movie is in the credits, like the previews for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3. So
all right, good enough. Like, all right, so whatever. Another tangent down, and we're not even.
I will aggressively defend Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3.
It's fine. I'm ordinarily a defender of it too, but like to say it's the best of the Ninja Turtles movies is just.
I said it's my favorite.
Okay, you did say it was your favorite. That's fair. That's fair. You know, you covered yourself.
But it is the best.
Okay, now you're also very wrong.
I think the best one's 2, but
yes, yeah, that's correct. Yeah, good. Yeah, all right, you're correct.
Favorite 3, best 2.
Little too, Raph. All right, but next up, we're gonna go to the other special effects guy, James M. Navarra. Not of This Earth, you might recognize as one of the director's earlier films. Saturday the 14th Strikes Back, which I guess is a sequel to Saturday the 14th. 976 Evil, which is a movie that I like, and I hope we do it for the podcast one time. And then Nowhere to Run. So he has fewer credits than Frank Seglia, but still decent stuff. But time for the moment we've all been waiting for, the actual cast. We're going to start off with our leading man of sorts, Sheriff Richard Tarbell. Sheriff Richard Tarbell. As played by Frank Lutz. He has a bunch of TV stuff, as a lot of these people are going to. Some highlights are Remington Steele, The A-Team, Fred Dreyer's Hunter. But then movie-wise, you got some gems like Ghost Town, Shane Ghost Town.
You know, I'm going to take the second. Why is that not streaming anywhere?
I don't know. We tried.
It's actually rated as one of the best Western horror movies of all time. So
yeah, horror Westerns, just they don't make them like they used to.
They don't make them.
They don't make them, yeah. When Harry Met Sally, some more TV stuff, a little bit of Star Trek TNG action, some Matlock stuff, but I'm not sure if it's one where Matlock faces off against a ghost. Walker, Texas Ranger, Beyond Belief, Fact or Fiction. So a lot of one-off TV stuff, not a huge career. If there's anything that you wanted to point out that I really started like glossing over things that I didn't care about for a lot of these people. So it's very possible for me to have missed things.
Okay, but you did care about Surf Ninjas. Like, come on.
That was earlier. I'm talking about the actors now. We're in an entirely different section.
But I feel like that's in response to me calling you out about Surf Ninjas.
No. I'm always happy to have my work checked live on the air.
Thank God this isn't live. It's just
yeah, no, we're lucky. All right. Next up is Elizabeth Johnson, who's alternately called Elizabeth or Beth. I guess that's because, it's a name. As played by Lisa Langlois. Don't know how that last name is pronounced. She's been in stuff like Phobia, Happy Birthday to Me, Hard Feelings, Class of 1984. I watched Class of 1984, I think, on the last drive-in with Joe Bob Briggs. I did not care for that movie. It had a young Michael J. Fox in it, though. Deadly Eyes, Transformations, one episode of Forever Night, an episode of Murder, She Wrote, which I'm comfortable to bring up now because that large print book is firmly tucked away on a bookshelf somewhere where I don't have to look at it. Fire Serpent, Poe, Last Days of the Raven, and then her most recent credit is Silver Fox in 2023. And I just realized the bit that I just said about the Murder, She Wrote book, unless people listen to the episode where I stopped talking about Murder, She Wrote, because I was so mad about accidentally buying a Murder, She Wrote large print book, it would be totally lost on them. And one quick thing about her. So the cover of this movie is like rather salacious. It's like a woman in like, her undergarments being accosted by a giant roach. As we know, the roaches in this are not giant, and that scene never happens. And she made like a thing about like how she was at first upset that she was portrayed that way, but then later, it was like, well, that's just how it is. Like she came to terms with it. But I thought for sure that was supposed to be Jenny.
The scientist.
I thought it was supposed to be Jenny, because the hair is blonde, but it's frizzy, and that's Jenny's hair. Because Elizabeth's hair is straight, and Dr. Hubbard's hair is dark. But in any case, I don't think it was supposed to be in. And Jenny's the one who we see like she's in at least night clothes, not like undergarments, but night clothes. So I assumed it was supposed to be Jenny, and not.
See, I thought it was supposed to be Dr. Hubbard.
Interesting. Well, either way,
it kind of looks like Dr. Hubbard.
We both agree that it's not supposed to be her character. So it's very funny that
I never would have guessed that that's her.
Yeah, she assumed that was her character and like was at one point upset about it, but I don't think it even is supposed to be. But anyways, then her father is the mayor. Elias Johnson is played by Robert Lansing. So many old Western shows, dude. Like, man has been going to town on the Western stuff. The only one I really recognize is The Virginian, just because like I've read the book. And then he's got like Namu the Killer Whale. It Takes All Kinds. An episode of The Flying Nun, which is a show I bring up because I just can't believe it existed. Blackjack, Empire of the Ants, which rules. If you've ever seen Empire of the Ants. Island Claws, wait, you haven't seen Empire of the Ants?
I have not.
All right, picture this: giant ants.
Okay.
Boom. It's so good. Island Claws, which is giant crab. So the man's got a taste. After School, an episode of Monsters, 28 episodes of The Equalizer, a couple episodes of Murder, She Wrote, but he played two different characters. And then he had like 28 episodes or something like that of Kung Fu, The Legend Continues. He has a lot of credits though. So if you want to just go through, he had like 190 some, a lot of them are just television ones. So he's pulled out some big ones, like how big the ants are in Empire of the Ants and how big the crab is in Island Claws. Empire of the Ants is so good though. We should do that for the podcast. I think it's in the early 70s though. So we have to waste some late 70s stuff before we can get to that.
We'll get there.
Yeah, we'll get there. Time is linear after all. And the 70s and 80s and 90s aren't going anywhere. Next up is Dr. Morgan Hubbard, our psycho doctor, as played by Terry Trias. She has a lot of credits. I picked like Seven Brides for Seven Brothers, the series. She was in like 22 episodes of that. Our old pal Santa Barbara shows up. She's in 15 episodes of that. Deathstalker and the Warriors from Hell, which is, I believe, the third Deathstalker movie. She was in The Terror Within, which came up earlier. And then also, like the entire Alien Nation franchise. Like she was a character, she played the same character throughout. So in the TV series and then like the subsequent movies, like the made for TV movies and stuff they did of Alien Nation. Nightmare on the 13th Floor, Frankenstein, Unbound. And then the last one I picked for her was House 4, which again, not my favorite House movie. I like House 1. I like House 2, the second story. But then they like gave up on like the fun joke names, and House 3 and 4 just aren't my thing. Next up is our local pest extermination agent, Homer, as played by Stephen Davies. Again, a bunch of TV series. I'm not going to go through all of those, but you got yourselves The Hanoi Hilton, Desperado, Corporate Affairs, which I brought up Corporate Affairs because I think the director, I didn't list it in the director's credits, but I think the director either directed or wrote Corporate Affairs. Alien Intruder, like how much more of a vague title do you need than that? Revenge of the Nerds 4, Nerds in Love. It's like, well, hopefully they stop doing sexual assaults in this one. Blood Fist 7, Manhunt. Star Trek Deep Space Nine. He had a couple episodes, and the one he played a character named Arak Taral, which I actually remember that character, but I do not remember him playing the character. The little Sega CD game called Wirehead. And then here we get some interesting stuff. Big O, Ghost in the Shell standalone complex, and then Yuki Kazi. So he moved on to doing anime voices. And I think was it last time we had somebody who had like Ghost in the Shell standalone complex? Like the stack for that must have been, stacked.
Yeah, for sure. No, it was the he was a voice actor.
No, yeah, that's what I mean.
Yep.
Sorry for that bit about Revenge of the Nerds, but like, man,
you're good.
I went back and reevaluated the first Revenge of the Nerds, and it is gross. That series needs to be like rehabilitated in a bad way. Next up is Lillian, as played by Nancy Morgan. I don't know. She's in something called Fraternity, Grand Theft Auto, but not that one. The Dreamer of Oz, Lucky Luke. She was in both the movie and the subsequent TV series. Danielle Steele's Heartbeat, Heirloom. Most recently, it was something called Life's a Bit in 2020, which was like a Nicole Blaine stand-up special. I'm not much of a stand-up person, so don't know what that is, but that was her most recent credit. If you want to step in and talk about anyone's credits, if I'm skipping over anything.
No, you're good.
I'm really blasting through these people.
I know, because I kind of fucked up.
Next up is Jake, our local resident kook, and also Lillian's father, as played by Jack Collins. And in my notes, I just put lots of ancient TV, and then a few examples are I Dream of Jeannie, The Addams Family, and My Favorite Martian. Dude's just in so many things. Like obviously being old as hell by this point, like he was in a ton of stuff. Some interesting ones: The Sting, The Towering Inferno, Flood, The Trial of Lee Harvey Oswald, Pete's Dragon, and I think his last credit was Jekyll and Hyde Together Again, which don't know what that means, but based on what I understand about Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, probably not great for the people involved. So next up is the local library association woman, Mrs. Pennington, as played by Diana Bellamy. Now, she had a ton of credits. I cut it down to just a few that like were connected to stuff or interesting. So we got Police Academy 2, one episode of Alien Nation, so hanging out with Dr. Hubbard, Critters 3, so hanging out with one of our special effects people, Outbreak, Superhuman Samurai, which I believe is an animated series, Diabolique, Ghosts of Mississippi, Air Force One, maybe you've heard of it. It's where Harrison Ford says, "Get off my plane." And then her last credit.
No, I've never heard of it.
Well, let me tell you.
Actually a good movie.
What, Air Force One?
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah, sure. In the pantheon of plane-related movies, it's definitely up there. And then her last credit was an episode of Diagnosis Murder in 2001. So, I love how often Diagnosis Murder comes up.
Yep.
And next is Mrs. Pennington's niece, Jenny, is played by Heidi Helmer. Not a ton of stuff. Purple Haze, Porky's Revenge, Beach Balls, Terminal Entry, and then her most recent credit was What Women Want, the Mel Gibson movie where he learns what women want. Have you heard of that?
Like, what do they want?
Well, ask Mel Gibson. I guess
That's so weird.
I guess anti-Semitism.
Well, oh, Jesus Christ. I was setting up another joke, but that one took it. That was
Yeah.
that was it.
Yeah, so there you go. What Women Want. That's her last credit. She unfortunately passed away in 2010, so it wasn't anything else after that. And the last one was actually somebody that I wasn't even going to do notes on, and I'm glad I did, because what an interesting dude. It's Church, the cook at Lillian's Diner, as played by Jeff Winkless. Hey, wait a second.
So much of the movie.
Wait a second, Winkless? Doesn't that sound exactly like the last name of the director, Terrence H. Winkless? Yes, it's his brother. And this man has had a career. So he was the composer on Corporate Affairs, Not of This Earth, and Lady Killer, which are all movies, I believe, that were directed by his brother. So, he had an in. That's probably how he got in on that.
Mm-hmm.
But man, as an actor, and specifically voice actor, this man has credits. Let's run through them. Soylent Green, Lupin the Third, Mystery of Mamo, Lupin the Third, Castle of Cagliostro, just Lupin the Third, just the show, I guess.
Yeah.
Space Adventure Cobra, Golgo 13, The Professional, Vampire Hunter D, Megazone 23, Windaria, Castle in the Sky, Wicked City, like that really like it's kind of like as cult classic as like anime movies get. Twilight of the Cockroaches, which I just think is funny because this movie also involves cockroaches. Also Saturday the 14th Strikes Back and Corporate Affairs. But then back to the anime, 3x3 Eyes, Silent Mobius, Doomed Megalopolis. Going back to the live action stuff where he does a voiceover, it's Look Who's Talking Now, Stone Keep, Tiny Toon Adventures, Buster and the Beanstalk. And then his last credit was in 2001 was an episode of the Black Scorpion television program. So this man has had such an interesting career that I did not see coming from his character in this basically being a bit character. And then one final, like, just little fun fact. The Snap Crackle Pop jingle for Rice Krispies it was co-written. The jingle was co-written by Jeff Winkless and his father. So obviously also the director's father.
Get out of here.
Yeah, it's so serious.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so this man is like, he's got some chops. Yeah, here he is playing a third string character in his brother's Roach movie. Like, what?
That's wild.
What's even happening here? So yeah, there we go. Then did you have anything you wanted to add to the cast or crew? I know I kind of blew through it there once we went on so many tangents that I was like looking at the clock and decided to book it.
No, you're fine. I think with Jeff Winkless, like if you're into late 70s, 80s anime, which is very different from like what we get now. Vampire Hunter D is crazy. So if you're into that stuff, you should definitely try to watch that. I don't think it's streaming anywhere. I think you have to either buy it or there's like one of those one-off, like you subscribe to Amazon, you can watch it. But Vampire Hunter D is have you ever seen that?
Yeah, I watched it in high school, like way back in the day. Well,
did you watch Bloodlust or D? Because Bloodlust was the one that came out when we were younger. So Bloodlust is 2000 and newer.
Ooh, it was Bloodlust. Yeah, it wasn't the original anime.
Okay, so the original one is just a movie. It's a film. It's wild.
No, it was Bloodlust that I watched then. Yeah, it was not.
You watched the TV show. So Bloodlust was great. That's
Bloodlust is also
show.
a movie though.
I thought Bloodlust was that on Toonami? No, you're right. It is a movie. You're right. But we were able, as like for Western audiences, we were this was readily available to a lot of us.
Back in those days, young people nowadays don't understand how good they got it. They have multiple anime streaming services.
Yeah,
they like release.
We had Cartoon Network.
Yeah, we had like Toonami, and then we maybe had like if we subscribe to like
Kaza, LimeWire.
well, some of the premium movie channels would sometimes have like a dub
You're right.
of something
Yep.
on. Like you could get Wicked City, you could get like Goku the Night Eye, like you could get Ninja Scroll, like some of these things. But like yeah, otherwise it was just whatever Toonami gave us, and then they finally gave us like the what would later become Adult Swim Toonami, but at the time it was just Toonami, but at night, and they'd give us like the unedited stuff, so you could actually see the violence and not have people pretending that it was like kid friendly, which was funny. So, what a tough time to be alive that was. We've really seen some struggles, Shane.
So currently you cannot stream 100D, the original.
When I looked at the original movie, it looked like you could get it on Amazon Prime, so it's probably to pay to rent or buy.
No, if you click the link, it's no longer available. So it's
damn.
gone.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you probably would have to buy this, or I can't remember the name of the Japanese website that sells to US. It ships to the US. There's like a Japanese collectible website. Check there. That's probably your only option is probably buying this. And I don't even know if it's in English. And if it is in English, I highly recommend it. Bloodlust is great too, but Vampire Hunter D, the original, like hands down, probably one of the best animes you'll ever watch.
I don't want to step on your Vampire Hunter D thing, because I honestly I watched it at my buddy's place in high school in his living room while also I think playing like, Star Wars Rogue Squadron Rebel Strike on the GameCube or something. I don't even know what era this was. So it was a while ago.
2000s when the movie came out. So that's 2001, 2002. So right around PlayStation 2, GameCube era. So was that it for the cast and crew? Like, did you have any other?
No, that was it. There's a couple other people that like Cy Perkins is like another character, but like he had no other credits, so I didn't even bother bringing him up. So I'm trying to keep it a little bit faster, but doing a bad job of it.
Before we get into the movie, there are multiple covers for this movie, and people listening, I recommend. I'll post them on our socials, but the Spanish one is interesting because there are no scenes where any of these, like there's one scene they show from the movie that I think is, have you seen the Spanish one?
For the covers? No, I've only ever seen the one with the lady getting like pounced on by a giant roach. I've never seen.
So the Spanish one has a guy transforming into a roach, which never happens.
Oh.
And then, well, no. Okay, so go to IMDb and look at the photos. There's only 8 of them. You'll see what I mean. And it has like bugs crawling all over it. It didn't happen like this. But it does show one scene of when the dad goes into the bathroom. We'll get into that later, but and it's funny that's the one they chose, because that was literally like you had to freeze frame to even see what this photo was that they used. My favorite cover is the Japanese version. It is so good. I love the Japanese version of the cover of this. So if you haven't seen it, you should check it out. And I can edit it out. You should look at them.
Depredadores Asesinos? Yeah, this man does not turn into a roach like this.
Yeah. That's what I mean. Like,
yo, what's this Japanese one? What is that?
That's so cool, isn't it? How fucking cool is that?
That's wild looking. Definitely misrepresents what's happening. I mean, the fact of the matter is all of these are misrepresenting how things go down in the movie.
Right. For sure. Speaking of what goes down in the movie.
Is it time for the plot description? Is Doesn't it help when I do that?
It does everything.
Anyways, let's go through this. I only got.
Let's fucking do it. Let's do the thing.
Let's do the thing we do.
I've been swearing a lot. I'll dial it back.
I mean, I don't care. You can do what you want. We haven't.
I don't want to make your mom mad.
We have. Yeah, well, I don't think she minds if you do. She minds if I do.
Dude, I haven't seen your mom in so long. It's been 10 years probably.
Yeah, I guess whenever the last time you went to Titusville would have been.
Yeah, because we went to your.
We were there for the
some reason.
beer fest, weren't we? Or is it the beer fest, or just? I feel like it must have been the beer fest that we were there for. There's a lot of people there. Opening starts like with some kind of bugs, like buggy looking stuff, but it's kind of unclear. It's on the words "the nest," and it's like kind of white on like a black background until it gets to the very bottom, and then it becomes red letters on black screen and says "the nest." So red letters on black screen. That's the '80s, baby. We love it.
It's the 80s.
Yeah, the music's kind of simple. We get some electronic tones.
Yeah, get some synths.
Sort of a
packed in there.
Yeah, but sort of a more tranquil sort of song.
Yeah,
it's like
somber.
Yeah, very.
That's what the subtitle said.
Yeah, if there's one thing we know, it's that we can trust the Tubi subtitles.
It literally just goes somber music. That's all it says. Like it's playing.
See, I feel like
okay,
somber though. I can think of a funeral. I would say it's more like I don't know, like atmospheric, but like in a tranquil way, like a charming way, like kind of provincial sounding. So a radio announcer, as we look at a scene of a lighthouse, which you know how I feel about lighthouses, in favor. So yeah, like the radio announcer is addressing the community of Northport, which is the community in this movie. And he does say that it's a bracing 62 degrees. Like, how is 62 degrees bracing? Like, that's just moderately warm.
Yeah, I didn't get that either.
I always define bracing as being like, I don't know. I felt like it should be a little more challenging, like a chill in the air that gets you like, ready for the day. That's a bracing.
Well, it's like it's December. It's a bracing 62. And then I think, okay, maybe.
Well, it's not December.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Like,
yeah,
it's got to be some. Yeah,
it's got to be. Yeah, but like, 62 for like, I think they're in June. It's like, yeah, it's about where you should be. I don't know. Anyways, the lighthouse. Then we pan down and see the ocean. That's how we know we're in a seaside town. Then we cut to the interior of someone's house, and it's the local sheriff, Richard, sleeping in his clothes with no covers and a pillow over his head, which is how you know he's a man of action, because just sleeping in his clothes. He's awakened by the sound of a beeper going off, at which point he calls the police station to talk to Millie, the sassy switchboard operator that we will never see, at least never see intact. He doesn't notice there's a roach in his coffee and starts drinking his coffee, which is pretty gross. There's going to be a lot of roaches in this thing, by the way.
Yeah, like the subtle roach hints throughout the beginning. Like, and we'll get into, I have a lot of gripes with some of this part.
I have gripes with it being called subtle. There's roaches everywhere. Yeah, but Millie is saying that they have so Millie says they have a bunch of strange calls, and starts to go through what seem like pretty basic calls based on how they react to them. It's like, Roger Gordon went missing, and he's like, let me guess, a tourist girl went missing too. He's like, yeah, you're right. And also, there's a barking dog at the Intech trailer. It's like, oh, not that again. It's like, oh, Mrs. Pennington from the library called about the books. It's like, it seems like it's just like business as usual for this like little tiny town. During the call, he does see roaches on his toilet. And then he jiggles the toilet handle, reaches into like the tank, and then pulls his hand out to additional roaches. And then he finally, after drinking from his coffee several times, notices the roach because he drinks it and has to spit it out. Yeah, he does a roach spit take. So gross. And having lived in an apartment once that had a lot of roaches in it, so gross. So gross, dude. It's one of the worst things that's ever happened. Like, I could not wait to move out of that place. Next up is the final bit of exposition from Millie, who, during this entire like roach experience has been on the phone or on the radio he called her, right? So was he on the phone or was he on the radio?
I think it was a two-way.
I think it was a two-way. Yeah, it was like a handheld radio. Because I was going to say, it was on the phone. It's like, wait, no, but they didn't have cell phones yet then. And then the final bit of exposition then is that there's a VIP flying in for the mayor's birthday. So Richard will have to pick them up because I guess the sheriff's duty is also to pick up high profile guests to this like 700 person town. But he goes outside to get
Well, do you think she did that because they had some history?
Maybe. If so, Millie's a sneaky one.
Well, because like that was like the gossip of the town. Remember?
Well, because the mayor doesn't know that Elizabeth's coming. So I assumed that it was Elizabeth who called up Millie at the police station to arrange her pickup. So it's to surprise her father. So yeah, I think Elizabeth was the mastermind of it all, not Millie. But that's just my 2 cents. Because I imagine Millie would know that Richard is currently seeing another local woman and wouldn't want to betray another local woman for some floozy who ran off to the big city and left their town in the lurch. But next up, when Richard goes outside, he sees our man Homer riding by on his moped, the local exterminator, their pest killer. He doesn't like to be called exterminator, but that's what he essentially is. But unfortunately, the sheriff's unable to catch him before he drives past. What is it then? It's at the diner, and Homer is talking to Jake outside of the diner. Jake's just asking Homer if he would like to go hunting, and Homer says he's always on the hunt, and then mopeds off. It's like, man, he can't get much cooler than that. Way to go, Homer.
So good.
And then, but then it's another instance of him like leaving just as the sheriff arrives to try to stop him again. But then our old codger Jake is asking Richard if he has pests, and Richard's like, well, yes, I do. And then but Jake's like, in order to deal with them, you need to not leave food out. Like Jake's just like your local, like weird old dude, just like saying random crap with occasional moments of lucidity.
Like profound moments of lucidity.
Sure. But then, yeah, Richard goes into the diner and addresses Lillian, who, again, we know is Jake's daughter from later, but there you go. It seems that they're an item because, what was it? She had gone to the mainland and he was like, I was wondering where you were or whatever. And then then Jake kind of comes in and is like, the sheriff's got pests. And Lillian's like, come on, Dad, don't give him the business. She's trying to get married. Local diner patrons are saying if it isn't bugs, it's rats. It's like a really weird situation of everyone just like giving their 2 cents. Like if it's not bugs, it's rats. And then Jake's like, rats are worse than bugs. Spoiler alert. Jake's not going to agree with that later. And then like Church comes out from the cook. Church comes out. He's like, this entire island is a cesspool. It's like, geez, Church, why don't you dial it back a bit and let people enjoy their breakfast?
Well, to be fair.
Well, he's not going to be totally wrong by the end of this. Yeah. And that's when Lillian is telling Richard about how she went to the mainland and bought him something and hands him sunglasses. And then when he puts them on, a guy that we'll later learn is Mr. Perkins, or Cy Perkins, I believe is his first name. It's like, you're a real piece of law enforcement, Sheriff. And then Richard kind of plays into the caricature of being like a serious cop with like sunglasses out to tame, what does he say? I'm going to tame these mean streets.
Mm-hmm. So
it seems like, they all have a pretty fun little dynamic in this small town. Hopefully nothing happens to kill them all. Richard, wearing his sunglasses, is driving along a small seaside road that barely constitutes a road. It's honestly like one lane. I don't even know how, like if you have through traffic, what do you even do? But on his way, he sees a hydroplane on the ascent. And then it lands. And then we see for the first time a sign for Northport. It's like Northport, Mayor Elias Johnson, population 700 for now. It doesn't say that on the sign, but it says it in my mind. Then the plane also has wheels because it's part of Northport Flying Boats fleet that I guess shuttles people from the mainland. So we see a young blonde woman getting off the plane that we will later learn is Elizabeth. And by later, I mean by every single person who calls her by name for the rest of the movie. Her presence, catches the sheriff's attention. And, that's one of our shorthands for these two had a relationship in the past. Am I right? And then
they really got some mileage out of the sunglasses.
Yeah.
Yeah,
they made use of their props. Chekhov sunglasses. If you have sunglasses at the beginning of the movie, when you meet a former love interest, you have to use them to show that he knows who that is. But yeah, the ride in the SUV is awkward. They both start talking at the same time, like they just learned how to communicate. Elizabeth is remarking about how She doesn't know what to say after so long. It's like, well, no shit. Richard is like, how about I missed you? It's like, oh, hey, buddy, coming in a little strong. Just try to play a little bit cool and then just put up an angsty, like, away message on your AOL Instant Messenger or something.
Right.
So Elizabeth's like, oh, you're sheriff now, and then asks if his dad retired, which is the first hint we get that Richard's dad was the former sheriff. And Richard, never one to let a moment go where he can't ruin the mood, says, no, he's dead. Elizabeth says she's sorry, and he says it's been a while now, which also is meant to be a jab at her because she's been gone so long. Then when they drive, they just drive by apparently a place that used to exist called Dan's Bar. And Richard says, oh, it was torn down a while ago. It's like, oh, you get it? She's been gone for a while, Shane.
Yeah, well.
And then it turns out she was gone for like 4 years. It's like, that's a blink blink of the eye in terms of like small towns. Like, shit never changes there. But then as they're driving, I see a banner for an upcoming Fish-A-Whack festival that I'm very interested in, but the movie will never address. So was disappointed by that. Some things in movies like this catch my eye, and the Fish-A-Whack festival was among them. But then we get to...
How dare they?
I know, man. He's going to dangle his Fish-A-Whack in front of me and not give me what I need. But then there's kind of flagged down by a woman in a rocking chair who's like yelling for the sheriff. It's Mrs. Pennington. She flags down Richard to show him a book that has the pages falling out, one of Millie's calls from earlier. And then she like casually says hi, Beth, to Elizabeth. It's like, she's been gone for 4 years, and she acts like she's just like, hey, how's it going? You're just here again. But like as Richard handles the book, the pages fall out, and then a young woman is coming by and is laughing and clearly fawning over Richard. And I put in my notes, I guess we have another Prowler situation where some goofy looking cop is just irresistible to all women. Because he's just kind of looks like a
fucking
derp.
Mark.
He just looks like a derp. He's a mark. Richard is just a mark. So yeah, but no, it's apparently like that's what they Pickens is slim on this island. It's either Mark or what's his name?
Or Mark.
Or no, it's either Richard or
Homer.
Homer. Yeah. And then no one's the pest guy. He's like, excuse me. He has some real utility. What kind of law enforcement does this island really need?
Yeah, right.
But Richard just explains that it's either bugs or rats that eat the glue out of the bindings, and Mrs. Pennington is incredulous because it happened to every single book. And then Jenny intervenes with like who's that? And why does she get a ride? And it's like, yeah, we get it, Jenny. You're into the cop. Just fucking lay off, dude. Like, we're trying to get through a movie here. Mrs. Pennington drops some quick exposition that Jenny is her niece who's working with Perkins for the summer. Will this backstory pay off? No. Then Mrs. Pennington says that there will be hell to pay with the library committee if he doesn't resolve the bookbinding issue. It's like, what do you want him to buy? Like, dude, go buy you some Elmers for these like books. Like, what do you expect him to do to re-glue your bindings together? Then she tells Elizabeth to say hello to her father for her. Under who her father is. Well, hopefully there's a smash cut that tells us it's the mayor. He's meeting with a local merchant that we'll later learn is Cy Perkins, who's talking about how he made all of the improvements that the mayor and Intech have asked him to make, but he needs money from Intech to avoid raising his prices. So it seems like Intech, the company, controls a lot. Did we explain that Intech is the company that like has a presence on this island?
I mean, this is the first time it like really comes up.
Yeah, the only other time it came up was when they said the Intech shed about the barking dog.
Yeah. Right.
So yeah, Intech is like this company that is doing something, and a part of the island is like closed off to their like investment in the area. And I think everyone thinks it's condos, but spoiler alert, it's roaches. They're up to roach business.
Spoiler, roaches.
Spoiler alert, roaches. But the mayor in Perkins' conversation, like, kind of comes down to like the mayor just being a dick to him. He says he's not going to let a provincial merchant like him drive the tourists away, and he'll get his money whenever Intech decides he'll get it. It's like, geez, mayor, like, I'm pretty sure that Perkins owns the only grocery store on the island, so maybe you better watch your shit. But anyways, we get an exterior shot of the house, very huge house for a very small island. And then what Richard asks Elizabeth how long she's going to stay. And she's like, she's being really cagey about it. It's like, I need to visit my father. But perhaps we could see each other later tonight. And I'm like, yo, Sheriff's already out here two-timing my girl Lillian, who he just met with at the diner.
That was kind of fucked up.
Yeah, the sheriff's not a good dude. He's up to no good over here. Like, I get that they have history, but he can't just like abandon Lillian like that after getting his dope shades. But yeah, Elizabeth goes into the house. There's some opera music that is playing. That's how we know that the mayor Elias is a very cultured man. And it was like super annoying to me that it said singing in a foreign language in the captions and not just like singing opera or singing Italian.
That was funny.
It was like clearly Italian, clearly opera. All right, thanks for nothing. But yeah, so she goes in and sees what her father's like on the ground, like leafing through folders and stuff like that in the corner of his office. And it's a really awkward reunion to begin with because he doesn't seem happy to see her at all. Possibly.
No, I thought he had like dementia.
Well, I was going to say possibly because he knows that Intech is making killer roaches on the island. Well, maybe we'll find out. So yeah, he talks to her about how he's looking for a book about legal precedent because everyone on this damn island is a lawyer. And then finally things get a little normal and they have a nice hug and he tells her that she's what he wanted for his birthday. Like, okay, so maybe like they are humans who can interact regularly and not just be weirdos. Meanwhile, out by the lighthouse, and I mean, not meanwhile, later. Not meanwhile. We'll have meanwhiles later. This is a later. Richard is out by the lighthouse and is remarking to Millie that he couldn't find a sign of Roger at the lighthouse. Because earlier, whenever local Roger and a tourist girl were missing, they're like, oh, it's the allure of that lighthouse. It's like, oh, so is the lighthouse a place where the young folks sneak off to have illicit relations? But there's no sign of Roger at the lighthouse. Millie then explains that there were 5 more dog-related calls in the meantime. It's like, so they're dead, right?
Probably.
Because what Millie says is like, it's like, do you want to address them or you want me to tell them it's all part of like just nature's majesty or something like that? It's like, lady, if like 5 people's dogs died in a row in this island, something's going on. But again, Millie is very dismissive. And she also seems to have a New York accent, which is not a New England accent, which kind of threw me, but that's fine. We're not here to nitpick this. We're not cinema sins.
Right.
Then, Richard hears a weird buzzing that we'll later learn is the Roach approach. Which, by the way, anytime you hear, that sound they make that sounds kind of like it's supposed to be buzzing, but it sounds more like electricity going off, and it's what signals the roach swarm.
Mm-hmm.
I call it the Roach approach.
That's good.
And you have to call it that too now. So
TM.
Yeah. Roach approach.
Okay.
So Richard, hearing the Roach approach, decides to walk down the steps that lead to the beach. But when he's on the way down, he gets jump scared by Jake, the old codger. Oh, Jake.
Son of a bitch.
Yeah, Jake, you old so-and-so. What are you doing here? Richard asks Jake how he got out here so fast. And Jake just responds with random folksy wisdom, which is kind of what you're talking about. Because he says, like, never swim in a public pool. Only kiss a woman you trust. It's like, all right, Polonius.
That was a solid reference.
Yeah, get that one. It's like that one's gonna go right over the head of some people.
Yeah, that's why I let a little room to breathe there. That's what the
neither a borrower nor lender be, am I right? But anyways, then Richard notices that Jake had stolen a boat, and that's how he got to the beach so fast. Is he used a stolen boat to like go around the other side of the island or something? And then Richard tells Jake to return the boat, and he won't say another word about it. And then Jake's like, whoa, gee golly, I think I will return that boat today. It's like, oh, Jake, never change. And he won't because he'll die soon. But then Jake has a very somber moment where he asks the sheriff if he's going to marry his daughter. And the sheriff says he likes her, adeptly dodging the question because he literally just made plans with another woman that night. Which again, I'm like, sheriff, like, come on, man. Can't be giving Jake the runaround like that when he's trying to ask after his own daughter.
Right.
But yeah, meanwhile, Elizabeth at the house goes into like an old style bedroom. And I thought it was a canopy bed at first, but I think the bedposts just go into the ceiling. Is that a thing?
Yeah.
Well, it is there. So if it's not supposed to be, it is. And there's also paintings of fruit on the walls. Because let me tell you, if I have a bedroom and I don't have fruit on the wall, so let me tell you, not sleeping there.
Right.
So yeah, apparently this was Beth's mother's room, or it's not clear if it's like her parents' room or just her mother's room, because everything sort of signals it is just her mother's room, like they had separate rooms. But she asks her dad where her mother's shell collection is, and he explains that he put everything in the basement after the funeral, and then kind of has a moment where he's like, I mean, well after the funeral, not immediately after the funeral. Like, it's like, clearly there's some tension between them about her mother's death. And that's kind of when we get the little bit where Elias like explains to Beth that he knows that he wasn't there for her after the funeral and she was hurting, but he couldn't help her because he couldn't even help himself. So that's kind of probably what precipitated her leaving, was his inability to deal with things emotionally. Toxic masculinity, am I right? Smash cut to Beth now out in the woods on a walk with some light upbeat music. What a nice time. I'm sure nothing terrible will happen. Oh no, Intech dog jump scare. She got a little close to the Intech trailer, and the dog that's tied up out there was barking at her. Which, by the way, it didn't look like that dog had any food or anything to drink. Who left that dog out there?
Yeah, it was kind of weird because it was like, well, who, like, what is happening with this dog? Like, they didn't, like, whose dog is it?
And like, well, whenever and someone called the police on it, like, who did? The dog wouldn't stop barking.
Right.
And it's like, oh yeah, the dog by the Intech shed or whatever. It's like, so this dog is known, and it is Intech's dog, but it's just out there alone. I don't know. So many questions about it. It really seems like it's just a plot device to get us to see a dog die. But, you know, since the dog's tied up, it can't get to Beth. So she continues her journey. I just noticed in my notes, I stopped calling her Elizabeth and started calling her Beth because I don't want to do a 3-syllable name when a 1-syllable name will do.
Chocolate.
Chocolate. So yeah, but as Beth continues her journey, there's a cut back to the dog and there's some ominous tones. And then what do we hear, Shane?
What do we hear?
Roach approach.
Bzzz.
It's the roach approach. And this time it's accompanied by some grass moving as it comes ever nearer. We will not get that every time. Usually we'll just get the roach approach sound. Beth finds her way to whatever spot she was seeking, but it's blocked by a fence and a no trespassing sign that indicates that Intech is up to something in their old haunt. But back to the dog. The grass is getting closer as the roach approach continues. And this is kind of where it gets kind of sad because the dog like whines and backs up until it gets to the end of its chain and can't go any further. Mercifully, it's not like a too graphic of a scene.
Right.
It kind of cuts back to Beth, who hears the dog like barking and like yelping. So she runs back to investigate. But when she gets there, oh no, the dog's down to like a fleshy, bloody, sinewy skeleton. Already been basically piranha'd, but with roaches. And we have a kind of a weird moment because she says, oh God, Richard, just as Richard arrives, but she wasn't looking at him, so I don't know how she knew he was there. But Richard was there in order to investigate the dog and also found the bloody scene before them.
See, I thought that was a mistake. I thought maybe they forgot a scene or something. Like they filmed her getting like...
Because she's like, oh God, Richard, and then he's already there.
Right.
Yeah, it seemed kind of weird. It's weird, definitely. Yeah. But Richard is looking at that dog's scraps of bloody flesh and is like, what's this? He sees something weird in there. They look like little, like, I don't know, little seeds maybe. We'll later learn what they are, but I won't spoil it because we got to give Homer his moment to shine. Richard goes to the mayor's house to check on Beth, so clearly some time has passed. The mayor says she's fine. But then once they like ask the sheriff, yo, what did that? What could have done such a thing? As if the mayor doesn't know. We later learn he knows exactly what did it. But that's kind of probably why he's like cagey about Richard wanting to send. So Richard wants to send some guy named Simpson, who's good at hunting mountain lion, out there after it. But Elias is like, well, it's Intech's land. We better let them handle it. I'll call them in the morning. It's like, hey man, a dog just died today. What's the morning gonna help?
Well, so like, I kind of like initially that was my feeling too. It's like, he's trying to cover this up, but at the same time, it's like he knows that they'll die.
Oh, you think he's trying to stop Simpson from going because Simpson will get eaten by the roaches.
I think that's why he was so adamant about him not going up there. Because at no point is like the mayor like, oh man, like he has like a Scrooge McDuck room where he's like swimming in money. He's like, they'll never know.
No, and actually, I kind of cover this later when it comes up, but this mayor is not the Jaws mayor. Like, this mayor is not going to keep the beaches open at all costs. Like, we'll get there, but he pretty quickly suggests they evacuate the island when it seems like shit's real, you know?
Yeah,
like
when hope is lost.
He definitely cares about his community in his own way. He just doesn't do it right. Like, he's very, like, the best thing to be would be to open about everything. But instead, he's, like, not open, but in a way that he thinks is going to help everybody. He's got his priorities all out of whack.
Right.
But then the mayor tries to, like, shoo away Richard, like, close the door on him. But then he yells for Beth, who comes out to talk to Richard, and they have a little stroll in the garden where they talk about her life in the city. And then, what is it? She's like, when I was in Northport, I could only think about the city. And then when I was in the city, I could only think about coming back to Northport. And it's like, okay, how long is this movie? Do we have time for this? And then she remarks that she doesn't know if she's going to go back. Her job was left open-ended, but she brings up another guy, which, Richard is like, other men exist? No. Quick cut to Elias on the phone with somebody at Intech asking to get a hold of somebody named Hauser. So he's like, basically like, get this dude on the line right now. Stuff is happening here. Back to Richard, who's trying to leave because he's upset by the fact that Beth might not be back forever, even though he's also dating somebody else. Like I said, sheriff's a scumbag. And then she's like, what? I seem to be separate from my father and separate from Northport. And he's like, separate from me? She's like, no, not you. It's like, oh man, I don't think I have enough like energy for this. Luckily, we'll go back to the junkyard, or not back to the junkyard. We'll cut to the junkyard where Jake lives and possibly works. He's in long underwear with a Boston Red Sox hat, shooting at mice with a gun. So this man is living his best life. However, as he's chasing the mice down and taunting them, one of them squeals and then is like ripped in half by something. And he sees like the top half of the rat, which is like a top half puppet, like an animatronic puppet kind of moving. It's kind of gnarly and interesting looking because it was still squeaking. It's like, ugh. But then that's when Jake hears the sound of Roach Approach. So the Roach Approach is coming towards him. He is trying to negotiate with the roaches. He's telling them to leave him alone. He has a gun, and then he goes to his cot in his like little tent and like covers himself up with a blanket. Like, Jake, I know you have a couple screws loose, buddy, but that's not going to help you. Like, your entire tent is open to the outside. And he starts getting devoured in a pretty gruesome manner. Like, you see, like, blood all over his, like, long underwear and, like, just, like, covering him. And then he's yelling for someone to call the police. But the only people who can hear him are roaches, and they don't know how to work phones yet. And then we just have an entire arm, a bloody arm, just fall off the cot and just fall on the ground. Like a pretty gnarly effect, except the cut is way too clean for roach pincers. So
yeah,
suspension of disbelief, but it is a pretty, other than that though, it looks like an actual arm was just plopped on the ground. Just kind of gross.
Well, I think this is like the first time that you're like you get the, I don't know. I'll save this criticism, but like this is the first time where you're like, okay, they're not showing them really. And you were like, okay, are these big bugs or are they little bugs? And to me, this was the first scene that I'm like, okay, why aren't they big bugs or why aren't there a ton of little bugs? Like, it was just weird for me.
I think it's always supposed to be a ton of little bugs, but they don't show it.
For sure.
It's just the perspective that you're supposed to know.
Correct.
I think because it's like they're always coming in at a low angle to whoever th're coming in at. But
it's just weird because he's like running and he sees them. And it's like they're little.
But I think there's a lot of them.
I know, but they never like deliver on that. Cause I know why they don't deliver because you'll get into it later. But
well, they only show it like once, yeah.
Well, in the house twice.
Okay, twice. They show it twice, yeah. But I think it's just because you can't get roaches to look like they're actually roaching like that, like they're actually swarming.
Right. For sure.
But anyways, it's the morning, and Richard is able to stop Homer on his moped this time. And it's such a weird exchange. Like, there's so many, like, non sequitur exchanges throughout this movie. So he's trying to get Homer to spray his place, but Homer's going on, like, a long tirade about how dangerous Alaska is. And it's like, how long do you think a naked man could survive in Alaska in the summer?
It was weird.
And then, like, the sheriff's like, hey, dude, I just want you to spray my place. And he's like, the answer is 20 minutes because it'll be sucked dry by mosquitoes. And I'm like, I'm 1,000% sure that's not true.
Right.
But Homer's like, no, I cannot spray your place, Sheriff, because I have to go spray the cabins. But then he just gives the sheriff his Roach spray gun and then mopeds off into the sunset. Back at the diner, we have some of the earlier crowd. You have Cy Perkins gossiping with a woman about the dead dog. And the other two locals are gossiping about Elizabeth's return after 4 years. But they shut up as soon as Lillian gets there due to the love triangle we're now in for some reason. So yeah, then Richard comes in and Lillian, obviously angry with him, wordlessly and like aggressively switches out his coffee thermos. And everyone else also shut up when he walked in. So like, what is it? Richard says something like, oh, awfully quiet in here today. But then of course the tension is cut like a knife by our man, Church, the dipshit cook, who just comes in and says, hey, Sheriff, I hear Elizabeth is back. How long's it been? So yeah, Lillian yells at him, tells him to go make a Denver omelet yesterday. That being slang for immediately, not that he wanted her or she wanted him to have made it yesterday.
Right.
Yeah. And the sheriff is fortunately saved from this awkwardness by his beeper. Saved by the bell, am I right? Anyhow, another plane lands, and this is a woman who introduces herself to Elias. So he actually went to get her this time. He did not have the sheriff go get her. It's kind of a funny exchange because she calls him Mayor Johnson. And he says, oh, call me Elias, because we're not that formal on this island. She's like, oh, well, you can call me Dr. Hubbard. And he's like, okay, I guess we can change it. Because she's just like being very formal. Then we get to the mayor's house. He's like, Richard is there. I guess that they're all going to go over together to the site of the deceased canine. And he's explaining to Richard that Dr. Hubbard needs to see the dead dog. Richard says Simpson's ready to go hunt tracks, and the mayor is again cagey and like, no. We're just going to take Dr. Hubbard out there. It's kind of an interesting exchange because Richard asks Dr. Hubbard if she's ever hunted, and she says often in a flirty way. I'm like, are you serious? Like, how can Richard be like catnip to all these women? That's ridiculous.
And it gets weirder later.
It gets
like
weirder. Yes.
Because like she for sure is into him, but it never like comes to fruition.
No, it doesn't come to fruition, but I'm sure she couldn't have predicted that. Right. Yeah, they arrive at the site of the, there's a little incident there that I didn't put in my notes that kind of stood out there where when introducing Dr. Hubbard to the sheriff, the mayor says he sort of inherited the job from his father, trying to downplay like Richard's place in the community. There's a lot of like stuff between them, like probably based on the fact that he used to date Elizabeth back in the day, but the mayor definitely does not like the sheriff, which is interesting because isn't sheriff like an elected position? You think with his money and influence, the mayor would be able to like mount another candidate against him?
Well, so the thing is, it can be appointed. So if there's a death or so if he caught the cycle outside of the election, it can be appointed.
It just seemed like enough time had passed based on Richard's earlier conversation with Elizabeth about it that it had been a bit.
It was only 4 years, so
yeah, I guess it depends on. I don't know how often sheriffs are elected. I guess.
Yep.
Oh well. No need to worry about that because we're gonna go look at a dead dog. They arrive at the corpse site. Richard pulls back the tarp they've wrapped around the dog, and Dr. Hubbard seems to dig in with glee. She is so excited about this dead dog. And what is their exchange here? It's kind of funny. Richard is like, so have you ever had a dog? And she's like, I have now, or something like that, or not until now. I'm like, ugh. This lady has got the creep factor up to like 11. Richard gets a beep, so he goes back to the truck. It's Millie on the line explaining that Jenny Pennington, who she describes as the ditz working at Perkins Market, which as we know is Mrs. Pennington's niece, has some kind of problem with the meat at the store. Then Richard is trying to be covert and asks Millie to look into Dr. Morgan Hubbard and what capacity she works with Intech. And then Millie's like, Morgan Hubbard, is that even a real name? It's like, is that even a very strange name? Like, her name's Millie. His name's Richard Tarbell. How is Morgan Hubbard a weirder name than any of those? I don't know. But then while Richard is away, Elias is asking Hubbard if it's them. And Hubbard is looking on happily as though it is them, whatever them is. Spoiler alert, it's the murder cockroaches. Smash cut to a supermarket. Jenny is explaining excitedly that she's watching the market while Perkins is off fishing, but she's worried she's going to get in trouble because all the meat has been eaten down to the bone. Shane, to the bone.
To the bone.
And our man sheriff, being the crack detective he is, notices some more of those strange, like, seed-looking pellets that he saw in the dog. Could it be the same thing? Although they have a weird exchange where he's like, could it be a children's prank? And she's like, even when I lived in the dorms, people wouldn't like prank each other by stealing all the meat off their bones. It's like, yeah, dude, like, who has the time? I barely had the time to fill someone's room up with balloons in the fraternity house when I was a young one. Back at the Intech trailer, Hubbard is setting up a trap to send out a pulse that will attract the roaches. And then she goes to get some bait when she notices a local cat and says, oh, never mind, we don't need bait. Because she's evil. Shane, if you weren't sure if she was evil by how excited she was about being confronted with a, defleshified dog, she captures a cat and puts it into the trap to attract roaches to murder it. She is a monster. So not only do we get a dead dog in this, but we also get a dead cat. So, gross. Elias and Dr. Hubbard are sitting on either side of the trap area. But then we hear the Roach approach. Both of them stand up and watch as it arrives. So they clearly see it in a way we don't. Like, we get it best, like the movement of grass to show that the swarm is there. Dr. Hubbard, using some weird remote, opens the trap. The roaches go in and start devouring the cat. They do show the cat being eaten, but luckily it's so obviously a puppet cat covered in fake blood that it's not upsetting. Because I was really worried I was going to see more dead animal stuff.
Well, the cat death scene was crazy, and then it just like I feel like I don't know. I'll get in. I have other criticisms of this, so I'll get there.
No. What do you have? What you want?
No, it's just like where we're at in the movie. It's
clearly a fake cat. It's a puppet cat.
Yeah, but like what happens to the cat? Like it takes a long time to pay off, right?
Yes, I think I know what you're going for. So yeah, we'll get there. Yep. Dr. Hubbard is like, yo, I need a place to work. And Elias is like, I got the perfect place, abandoned lighthouse. So they go to the lighthouse and he sets her up in there. He's talking to her about his concerns about what's going on. But she's too interested in the roaches and just keeps talking about their behavior. I can't remember what it is. She's like talking about how they aren't afraid of the light and how they act as a society rather than like individuals, like all this weird stuff. But luckily we get a cut to Homer at Lillian's diner. He's over there doing some extermination work and she's getting kind of, what is it? She says, are you almost done exterminating? He's like, I am a pest control agent. It's impossible to exterminate a species that's been around for 25 million years. It's like, oh man, this guy would be good at Jeopardy. But their little debate is broken up as Elizabeth comes into the diner. And this is a pretty fun exchange where Lillian asks if Beth's going to be staying around. And she, Beth is like, I don't know. I haven't decided. And Lillian goes into this whole tirade. It's like, I serve eggs to yokels. I'm on the 40 side of 30. I have a dad who hangs out in a dump. And when you're not around, the only man in town worth walking across the street for comes to see me. So it's like, oh man, she's laying it down. She also doesn't know her dad's already been devoured by roaches. And then
yeah, a little awkward.
Well, no, the awkward part is how Homer's on the ground still during this entire thing, like looking around. And Lillian asks him if he's done. He's like, yeah, I'm done. Yeah, I'm done. Like he says it like 8 times and just goes to leave. And another guy just comes in and is like, you open? And like, then Elizabeth leaves. Like, what did Elizabeth even come in there for? She didn't get anything. Small town politics, or I guess not politics, gossip. There's nothing political about that nonsense. Back to Dead Animal Autopsy. Hubbard is going on and on about how much he admires the nymph cockroaches who are able to reproduce without males. I didn't have time to check if that's a real cockroach thing or if that's a fictional one, but it seems unlikely to me. So she gets a scalpel, starts cutting into the dead cat and like checking out roach stuff. But she's looking at her hand and there's like roaches crawling all over it. And she's like, I can feel them biting me through the glove. And Elias is like, well, then take your hand out. And she doesn't do it. She just like stares at it until he like pulls her hand out for her and it's like covered in blood. It's like, this lady is off her rocker. Like, I'll give you one thing. Like, if you have problems with some of the performances in this, her playing this like maniac scientist it works.
So I thought she was going to be the queen.
Oh, how they talk about this
somehow.
Queen. Yeah.
And like, I was kind of bummed that they didn't really like get like, that could have been probably a pretty cool device. You know what I mean? That they could have used.
No, she's just more like a secondary antagonist.
Right.
Then we cut to an exciting side story of Beth going through her mother's boxes in the basement. Probably the only interesting thing that happens here is there's roaches and she just ignores them. Spoiler alert. I'm going to be able to ignore them forever. She sees an Intech folder that is talking about how a portion of the island has been marked off for Intech. So Beth is back in investigation mode and she goes back to that no trespassing area we saw earlier out by where the dog was killed. And she like decides she's going to go under the wooden slat fence into the no trespassing area, not noticing there was like barbed wire there. So she gets her back like all cut up. And then she sees what look like chunks of dead animal and pokes them with a stick. Cause why not? It's the American way,
Yeah.
There's so many like crosscuts to this like events here. It's like, man, if we could have just gotten one of these scenes just to last the duration of a scene. Back to the lighthouse, Elias has lost his patience and asks if Dr. Hubbard is going to kill them. She decides to try it out and uses something called retinone, which is apparently some kind of pesticide. He asks her if she's going to spray the island, and she says that in this dosage, it is also lethal to humans. And this is when Elias finally gets that, like, oh, this is real. So he starts walking. He's like, I'm going to evacuate the island. This is ridiculous. And Dr. Hubbard is like, give me 24 hours. I can resolve this. He's like, no, you can't. Don't lie to me. Like, he's very adamant that she can't do it. And it's like, oh, is this going to be like the first good mayor of a small town since like Jaws came on the scene? Like every mayor is just the worst. No, he eventually relents to her and decides to go with 24 more hours, which will result in the devouring of most of his citizenry. Elizabeth goes to a cave that also has additional wooden plank fencing on it. She moves past that as well and goes into the cave. And now we see why she wants to be there. There's like a heart with her and Richard's names in it, spray painted on the wall, and a box of their old stuff. Which again, there's tons of roaches in that stuff, and she just doesn't seem to care. She picks it up. Then we go back to what looks like a highway, which seems like a big road for this kind of island, but it's Sheriff Richard pulling over Homer on his moped to show him one of the pellets that he gotten off of the dog and off of the meat from Perkins Market. And then we get a cool situation where Homer looks at it, smells it, puts it in his mouth, and then reveals that it's roach shit. So way to go, Homer. You're doing the Lord's work. Over the radio, though, Millie is calling the sheriff while he's still with Homer. And she's explaining what she learned about Dr. Hubbard. Nothing from Intech. They were not cooperative. But Mrs. Pennington had a book of who's who in medicine that apparently didn't have the bindings eaten out by local roaches. So thank you, serendipity. And explains the stuff they know about Dr. Hubbard. And during this conversation, it cuts to the lighthouse where Dr. Hubbard and the mayor are listening in on the radio conversation. So they have a radio there. So they're just like listening as Millie is explaining that Dr. Hubbard was kicked out of MIT for doing illegal experiments and all sorts of stuff. You know, Homer is like, what kind of experiments are illegal? It's like, Homer, sir, you know what human rights are. Like, you know what can be illegal. Dr. Hubbard is annoyed and asks Elias if he finds the local sheriff to be as much of a pest as she does. It's like, so it seems like her attraction to him might be over, right? No. She still will do other things later to seemingly try to get closer to the sheriff. So then we get a Roach view camera as we get a Roach approach from the entrance of the cave. The Roach approach is getting closer, and I don't think Elizabeth sees them. But as she's backing away, she backs into huge flesh sacks that are hanging from the top of the cave. Pretty gross looking. They look like big old nuts or something. I don't know. They're gross looking.
Yeah, they were like, yeah. That was weird.
That was an interesting thing for roaches to have. So she runs to the end of the cave and manages to find a small hole that she's able to climb through and get to the outside. Just as the Roach approach based on the camera was getting to her. I'm like, I assure you roaches can climb up the side of a cave. Like, they are not going to be stopped by the fact that she pulled herself up to a ledge and crawled through a window. A cave window, but a window nonetheless. But instead, this is our first ever time seeing the roach swarm. It's just a bunch of roaches running in every direction because they don't have a hive mind and run in the same direction. So obviously, they're not going to be good for this swarm effect. So that's our first time seeing what the Roach approach looks like when it gets to you. It's just a bunch of roaches.
I don't know. I just kind of wish they were bigger bugs.
Yeah, I kind of wish they'd just done big fake looking bugs and not not done like they're actually a swarm of little realistic bugs. And then we only get to see them every once in a while.
Yeah. Or have shown the swarm a ton, right?
Yeah. I think the problem is it's hard to make it look good in scale. So they can only really show it when it's away from people because there's no sense of scale. So they could be any size.
Right.
What is it then? Oh yeah, so we cut to a bunch of angry roaches, like the first time we see them. I said they're angry just because they're running in every direction. Like they're angry, they failed to climb up a wall. Back at the mayor's house, Elias is tending to Beth, who's all scraped up from her experience, while Richard is angrily talking about getting a group together and go to the caves. And Elias is like, you'll do no such thing. Those roaches are dangerous. But he also says that the problem is under control. It's very funny how Elias is like, it's too dangerous. And also everything's under control. Like, well, which is it, buddy? Dr. Hubbard explains that she wasn't kicked out of MIT, but left voluntarily. And then goes on one of those long, like, villainous scientist speeches about how there will one day be no need for pesticides or chemicals when genetic engineering solves it all. And she says that she did do some experiments at Northport, but she does not want to disclose what they are. And then by tomorrow, it'll be over. And everyone should just trust her. Spoiler alert, I don't think anyone trusts her. And then Beth tries to pull the daughter card and get her father to explain what's going on. And if there's nothing to worry about, why not go to the caves? And Elias is like, just trust me. So we have evil scientists saying, trust me. And you have corrupt mayor saying, trust me. So the only thing left is to trust them, right?
Right.
No, Beth and Richard leave. And on the way out, Richard says to the mayor, my father always told me that this day would come and he hoped that I would be ready to deal with it when it did. And he like hands over his badge. So, oh no, he just quit being sheriff, even though later he's basically reinstated by the fact that the mayor keeps calling him sheriff. Anyways, out back of Lillian's diner, we get Church coming out to throw some trash into the local dumpster. And then he also has like a little makeshift basketball hoop so he can throw trash through the hoop like he's playing NBA Jam for the Sega Genesis. So he's like tossing stuff in, but he notices, oh, this dumpster has a lot of stuff in it. The only thing left to do is to stomp that stuff down. So like, that's why I'm glad when anytime I've worked somewhere where I had to throw trash into a dumpster, we had a compactor. It's like, let that do the work. I do not want to step on trash. But yeah, as he's jumping up and down on the trash in the dumpster, he's going, ow, like something's like biting him. And as like, I would get out on the first ow because I could have been being stabbed by like a hypodermic needle or something. But he doesn't care. He's seen it all, right? Oh no, what does he see next? His bloody arm with some fingers missing as roaches are on it, devouring it. He messed up, Shane. He messed up. Yeah. So yeah, he then what? He falls and is then devoured by the roaches in the dumpster. And he kicks up a fuss about it, but Lillian's not close enough to see it. She's out front, using her broom to dust the sidewalk because the sidewalk definitely needs that. And then she gets sad because she sees the sheriff drive by with Elizabeth in the vehicle. And it's like, did we really need this gut punch emotionally to see her like sad because what she thought was her boyfriend is now two-timing her with his ex?
Yeah, she's like sweeping.
Yeah, and she like hangs her head sadly. I'm like, what? I didn't need this in my fun roach murder movie. So what is it? We're back to Elias, trying to control the situation. He's trying to call Hauser at Intech. But Hauser won't speak with them, and he leaves like a rather mean message about how he better call. We got some stuff to talk about. Back at Richard's, Beth gets out of the shower. She needs a shirt because hers is covered in blood. So he, picks up a few and smells them, and then finally finds one that I guess doesn't smell too bad and gives it to her. It's like, relatable, having clothes on the floor and making sure that it's clean. Been there. I'm just like the sheriff, except for the wooing every woman on a small island thing. And then, so apparently this is kind of an interesting fact. So the actress was apparently supposed to do like a nude scene for the shower scene. And she stood her ground and was like, I did one. I didn't want to do it then. I felt exploited by the producers then. I don't want to do it now. And the producers tried to pressure her into it and she stood her ground and she was able to avoid it. So like, good on her. Because there's like I said, there's some, like we've said before, there's some actresses that are comfortable with it. There's some that are not. And it's good that she was able to stand her ground and, the producers back down as they should always.
Do you think that has something to do with who produced this?
Who produced it? Oh, it was Julie Corman, right?
Yeah. And not
Roger Corman.
Yeah. Do you think that's the difference?
I don't know, man. Julie Corman's produce some smut too, so it's kind of hard to tell, but it might be. It could be. She might have been more willing to hear it,
like The Plight.
Yeah, I'd like to hope so, but yeah. So where were we? Oh yeah, this is Richard's talking with Beth, and is like, your father's a pain in the ass, but I couldn't imagine him doing anything to endanger Northport. And she's like, you don't know my dad too well. And then explains that like while she was looking through her mom's stuff, she found her mother's suicide note and that her mom didn't die from an accident, but by suicide, but her dad covered it up because he didn't want their reputation to be affected. I'm like, oh man, this is heavy. This is like the Christmas speech that Phoebe Cates gives in Gremlins. Like I didn't need, again, like another time where this movie's confronting me with like tonally inconsistent dramatic events. Like, give me more roaches, please.
So, like, why didn't they have her be like a scientist and the roaches killed her?
What was that?
Like, why? I don't know why the suicide. I don't know why they just didn't have the roaches kill her.
Well, I don't think there were roaches yet. So,
well, like I'm saying, like they could have made her like a scientist, and she's like, that's how he knows because she like was in on it. That's why they're there.
Well, I assume that like the wife's suicide is kind of what put the mayor on this tear of like, I have to
doing better for society.
I have to do everything I can for society and my community at any cost. And then like he flies too close to the sun, deals with Intech, who do not have the same scruples, thanks to our Dr. Hubbard here. So kind of bites him in the ass. But I do think he ultimately probably had good intentions. But no, I think the suicide there's probably a reason for it. It's just like, this is jarring. What was it? One more section in this scene. I did miss you, Richard. I missed you. Starting to make out. But then we move to the bathroom where her bloody shirt has additional roaches on it. So could be more roach stuff going on. I don't know. We'll find out. Smash cut cross town to Jake's junkyard. Homer's arriving on his moped with checkers and moonshine to apparently play checkers and drink moonshine with Jake. However, he gets to Jake's tent and Jake is not responding. And he's like, yeah, you got to wake up, you goofy goober, you. But then he pulls the sleeping bag to the side or the blanket or whatever it is to reveal Jake's half-eaten face covered in roaches. And then Homer flees. And when he gets to his moped, there's 3 roaches on his moped seat. So he's like, I'll go on foot, and just runs. Just brush off those 3 roaches, dude. They aren't swarming it yet. But, Homer does things different. He's built different.
Built different.
But then anyways, Elias is finally on the phone with Hauser. And Hauser's asking if are you overreacting? Are you sure that these roaches are dangerous? And the mayor's like, hey, brother, if these roaches get to the mainland, nothing will stop them. So you better fix them here. Back at Richard's house, he and Beth are in bed together, in the covered in a blanket in a way that covers all of the important nudity, because they just had intercourse. He tells her not to go to LA, and she says, come with me because you owe me. And then she goes to that slip of paper she pulled from the box in the cave, and it's an IOU from when they're younger.
She knew what she was doing.
Yeah. She knows what she's about. She
had a plan.
Yeah, she's her father's daughter. She's a sly one. And he's like, I'll go anywhere you go, darling. And then they kiss until suddenly there are roaches literally everywhere. They open the tank to the toilet, and it's just filled to the brim with roaches. It's that's too many roaches. That's simply too many roaches.
There's so many roaches.
Yeah. But fortunately, elsewhere, we find the young woman, Jenny, walking with it looks like it's breakfast food. Is it pancakes or waffles or something? It's definitely something covered in syrup, which we know for sure is true.
Yeah, roaches love syrup.
Well, they like sugar because they're bugs. I mean, I don't actually know that, but Jenny is has some wireless radio headphones on that are really loud, and she's wearing a nightie. That's why I thought she was the one on the cover of the thing, because I thought that they were doing their interpretation of her night clothes. But she's carrying a tray of food for her aunt, Mrs. Pennington, and she just keeps dropping stuff. Which the floor looked so gross. I've never seen a more realistically gross looking floor in a movie in a long time. So she brings the food to her aunt. And what is it? Mrs. Pennington is asking her, did you make a mess? She's like, oh no, of course I didn't. If I did, I'd clean it up. And she's like, oh, I doubt that. Meanwhile, Jenny's feet are covered in syrup, and there's this syrup tracks leading all the way into the room. And she keeps rubbing her foot against her leg and covering her leg in syrup. And I'm like, dude, that's so gross. There's no way you can feel that and be comfortable. You've known me for a long time, Shane. And one of my hangups is having sticky skin. I don't like it. The idea that someone could just casually have sticky feet because of syrup and tracked it into the entire room is ridiculous. I believe in the possibility of a killer swarm of roaches more than I believe that someone can have syrupy feet and be fine with it. No, absolutely not. 0% chance.
So what I thought was interesting was her dad's thing. He said, oh, I know how to get rid of roaches or bugs. Don't leave food around or whatever. And it's oh, here it is.
Yeah, Jenny could have used that advice.
Yeah.
But what Jenny then goes, and then we have a little bit where it's clear that Jenny can't hear her aunt. She just keeps going, what? She's like, that'll make you deaf. What? It's just get out of here, you. So Jenny goes into the bathroom, which looks like it's an ensuite bathroom to her aunt's bedroom, which is kind of weird. Doesn't matter, because she's listening to that and she's like looking at a magazine that's like hairstyles or something and like playing with her hair, and she can't hear that Mrs. Pennington is yelling for her. And why is she yelling at her? Well, there were roaches in her bed. We hear the roach approach. Don't worry, we always hear the roach approach. The roach approach is happening, but I don't think Mrs. Pennington can hear it because her TV is so loud. She doesn't notice until the roaches are in her bed. She's kind of like kicking around, trying to get the roaches off. She has a broken foot, and the roaches are like in her cast, eating her feet, and there's like blood coming out of it, which is pretty gnarly. That kind of,
it was gnarly.
It's messed up. And she's yelling for Jenny, but it's like, okay, Jenny can't hear you, but what's she gonna do? Like, these roaches kill so many people. But then we get back to Mrs. Pennington. The roaches are all over her body. They're crawling up her. And then finally we get a cut of roaches pouring out of her mouth. And I think she's Dunezilla. She's toast, bro. So yeah, she's dead. And then it just kind of cuts to the light at the bottom of the bathroom, and the roaches are kind of walking at like bathroom levels. So it's implied that Jenny's killed, but we don't actually see her death at the hands or antennae of these roaches. So back at the lighthouse, Dr. Hubbard's going through her notes on roach stuff. When she goes, she's like, I'll have a look at one of the egg capsules. So she, because she wanted to look at the eggs of the roaches they killed with the retinone, the supposed, what do you call it? Pesticide they're going to use.
Pesticide, yeah.
But the eggs have hatched. They're entirely roached. They're roached up. So she gathers that the new generation of roaches, once they're gassed, are going to be immune. Well, then we get to the beach. I'm kind of confused about this because we don't actually see where the sheriff went after they found all the roaches in his house, right?
Right.
That was the last scene we saw them, is finding all the roaches in his toilet bowl. But now he's at the beach loading up the bodies of Roger and the tourist girl.
Oh, he gets a radio call.
Oh, did he get a radio call when they were?
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
And they're like, oh, hey, bad news. Because he was like, something else was happening, and he was like saying, hold on. And he was arguing, and they're like, hey, we found the bodies.
Okay, so that was after that. I must have just not put it in my notes because, like, honestly, this movie's so rich with incident despite, like, very little happening in it.
Right.
So, yeah, they go there to load up the bodies of the tourist girl and Roger, the other person, into the back of Perkins' truck. And this is where I put in my notes. Oh, Perkins is the Psy that was arguing with the mayor earlier. I didn't notice it all the times I've seen this movie until I was taking notes about it. The mayor back on the phone with Hauser still. Like, what a call, man. This thing, they've been on the line forever. Making plans for if he can't evacuate the island. The call is going poorly because the connection is bad. Because roaches understand phone lines, Shane. And they're working on cutting the phone lines. But luckily, the mayor is able to convince Hauser that if the lighthouse beam is on, do not spray because the town is not evacuated. He gets the message out before the roaches are able to fully devour the phone lines and cut them off. Perkins, he's driving his truck. Doesn't notice that there's roaches emerging from the corpses of the two people in the back of his truck. He has his windows down because it is a bracing 62 degrees. The roaches, immune to wind resistance, are crawling along the side of his door up his handle to his open window. And they start to bite him. And they bite him pretty quick. They usually work a little more deliberately than this, but they knew they had a bridge coming up, so they had to be quick about it. So they bite him up so much that he drives his truck over the side of a bridge and it explodes. So that's it. That's the end of Perkins. R.I.P. to a real one. Granted, he didn't even get his own explosion. That was stock footage from Humanoids from the Deep, one of Roger Corman's movies.
Oh, shit.
Which, by the way, we will probably not watch on this one. I'm just telling you right now.
Okay.
That movie is gross.
Gotcha.
Where were we at? Oh, Lillian's Diner. So here's a tonally inconsistent situation. So she's doing battle with cockroaches while a playful version of La Cucaracha is going on in the background. Which, by the way, the singer is actually the director of the movie, Terrence. What is it? Terrence
Wait, that's
Winkle.
him?
That's him singing that. Yeah, singing that song.
Oh, okay. He didn't write that.
No.
Right?
No.
Oh, okay.
He's just singing this version of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I imagine it's got to be public domain. It's like an old song, right? So
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, he's singing it though, and it's like a bunch of like crazy, ridiculous things of her, like, you know, getting some roaches on a burger, throwing the burger in the microwave, and then microwaving them and they explode. Then pouring hot coffee on some of them, and then smashing one with her like spatula, and putting a bunch of them in the fryer with a bunch of fries, and then turning on a blender where a bunch of them are. It's like she's just using all of her tools at her disposal to kill all these roaches. And she's like talking to them. It's like, here, sir, would you like a refill on your coffee? And it's like pouring hot coffee on these roaches.
It's like nothing will stop them.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, I think the ones that exploded in the microwave are dead, and probably the ones that were blended.
Yeah, probably.
I don't think the hot coffee would do it though.
That's fair.
But yeah, on the radio, the mayor, who has been at his house this whole time, obviously, it contacts Hubbard, tells her, yo, I'm calling it. We're evacuating the island so that Intech can spray. But Hubbard now drops the bomb that, spoiler alert, the eggs will become immunized if you do. So you'll make unkillable murderous roaches if you do that. So then he tells Hubbard, well, you better turn on that lighthouse beam because that's the signal. And Hubbard like is kind of sassy about it. It's like, oh, that's so quaint, Mayor. It's like, what do you want him to do? Like, how's he supposed to signal to them whether or not they should? Right. It's the beak. It's like the, Fires of Gondor, dude. You're not going to miss it. Back at the house, Homer, or at his house, Homer's got his own little house. Sorry. Back at his house, Homer is putting together a new chemical cocktail exclusively for his new nemesis, these murderous roaches that took his Checkers bud. He says, I killed your father, I killed your grandfather, and now I'll kill you. He's very, very dramatic about it. However, he doesn't notice that he knocked over one of his bottles of chemicals as he's going through his chemicals. And then he throws a cigarette on the floor of his own home, as you do when you're done with your cigarette, right?
Typical.
Yeah. And he notices that he threw his lit cigarette into one of the chemicals and then runs away just as his house explodes.
Well, then later blames the roaches for it. It's like, dude, we all saw.
Hey, man, he's trying to set up for the insurance claim.
Yeah, really.
But also, spoiler alert, another scene that is stock footage from Humanoids from the Deep. So
interesting.
Yeah, I know. Where was I? Back at the lighthouse. Oh yeah, Dr. Hubbard finds that she doesn't know how to work a lighthouse, and thus hasn't gotten the beam going. Back at the house, the mayor's daughter arrives to ask what's going on, and he tells her to pack her stuff up. We're evacuating this island. Richard, meanwhile, has gone to the police station because he can't raise Millie on the radio. And this is where we get our first introduction to Millie, but it's mostly an arm, a bloody arm holding a cigarette. You can kind of see a chunk of other flesh behind it, but the real part you see is the arm. So Millie was chowed down on, and honestly, no big loss. Millie was kind of weird.
Yep.
Yep. That one's fine. I'm cool with that one.
Yeah, it was quick. Get it out of there.
I can't believe she didn't drop her cigarette. She's getting eaten by roaches.
I know. What a champ.
Dedicated, man. Anyways, then Richard goes to Lillian's diner. We find it as we left it. Microwave is running, blender's running, coffee everywhere. But he's not finding Lillian anywhere. And then he walks into the walk-in freezer and find that she had locked herself in there and frozen to death. Whoa.
Yeah.
Which, like I said, is like what a
dark.
Jarring shift in, like, last time we saw her was a goofy, like, La Cucaracha, her doing stuff against these roaches, and now she's frozen to death in order to avoid them. It's like, hey, cool. Really like that.
Yeah, she's also super sad about her douchebag boyfriend.
Yeah. Yeah, and then what is it? He said so I put this in my notes, and you take it how you want to. So he tells her sleep in peace, darling, or whatever, and kisses her on the head, and he like acts like he's all broken up about it. But what did he not do? Check for a pulse. She might still be alive.
He really didn't do anything.
He did not. He's just like sleep in peace and kisses her head. He's like, I'm sorry, baby. And then like, he's like, check for a pulse, bro. She could like be able to be saved. It's a bracing 62 degrees outside. You could take her out. But he doesn't bother. And anyways, he's coming out of the freezer, and then the freezer door gets bumped. And he comes out with his gun, but it's Homer. And that's when Homer says,
killed you.
The roaches killed Jake and blew up my house.
Like,
it's like, hey man, it's like,
we
what
all
do you need a police report so that you can file the insurance claim? But then he also says the whole town is dead, which I find hard to believe the entire town is dead. But I feel like they just don't want to pay any more extras.
dude, I have thoughts about this.
Do you want to talk about them now, or do you want to talk about them later?
No, later, because it's very important. But audience, just keep a pin in like the whole town is dead.
Okay. Well, you had a couple other things you wanted me to put a pin in too. Are you going to be able to keep track of all these pins?
It's all the same pin.
That's a hell of a pin.
That's a hell of a pin.
Back at the lighthouse, Richard goes in with Homer, and he tells Dr. Hubbard that he wishes she were a man, I guess, so he could punch her. But instead he pulls his gun on her and puts it in her throat. I'm like, I mean, how is this less violent?
This is how we treat women on this island.
Yeah, we don't punch them. We just put a gun to them.
We don't strike women. We just threaten their lives.
But then he asks the famous question, why are the roaches killing people and how do we stop them? Probably the best line in the movie. He's like, yeah, dude, I think that like we've all wondered these things.
Buddy, you're like an hour late. Well, a day and like 6 hours probably.
Yeah, this man doesn't even know.
Yeah.
Then we get some cross-cutting between Dr. Hubbard explaining to Richard and Homer, and Elias explaining the same thing to Beth. Essentially, it's like what, an alternative to pesticides. Intact created roaches that eat other roaches. They're supposed to die out after one generation, but they didn't. Then Dr. Hubbard is like, oh, they're either becoming intelligent or there's a queen, meaning there's a nest. Dr. Hubbard is momentarily... Oh, wait, no, before I go into this, what was that movie where this was the same plot, but later?
I couldn't remember, and I was hoping you would, but one thing that she said earlier, and I can't remember if you brought this up. If you did, I'm sorry, but she brought up the fact that they can reproduce without having to have
males. Yeah.
Did you bring that up?
I did.
Okay, cool. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
because this is important. This is getting important soon.
Yes, but I remember the movie though. Thank you for vamping for a second, because it's Mimic.
Yep. Yes.
Mimic, the movie like about the roaches in New York that they bred.
That mimics things.
Well, they first bred them because there's like a disease that was spreading through roaches. So they created a version of roach that kills other roaches so that they don't spread the disease. But then those roaches eventually evolve into roaches that can mimic humans or something. Like, I don't know. It's been a while, but I'm pretty sure that's the plot of Mimic. Mimic aside.
Well, then there's like Men in Black.
Well, because there's a bug in it?
Well, the main guy's a roach.
Yeah, he's a roach. You're right. He's a bug. There's also A Bug's Life
with Billy Crystal.
Back to the ants' Bug's Life.
Well, it's neither. So
no, it isn't.
Yeah, it's Monsters Inc. Solid callback.
Back to it. Well, this is a better one to talk about that anyway.
Yeah.
But then Dr. Hubbard is briefly impressed by Homer, who, he's like, oh, if there's a queen, then there's a nest and all that. And, he introduces himself as Homer P. Byram, independent pest control agent. It's the first time we get his full name. Then back at the Elias's house, like I said, there's a lot of cross cutting here. Obviously his daughter's upset with him. He's like, I didn't start World War III or anything, or I didn't, poison everybody. I just gave Intech space to work so they'd invest on the island. And I thought Beth was a little out of pocket here. She says you did the same thing to Northport that you did to my mother. You destroyed them. It's like, geez, lady. I really think he had good intentions here. He just got taken advantage of by an evil scientist. It happens.
Yeah, and they never really expound on
what did he do to her mom. That was
killed
so,
herself. Yeah, right.
There's a lot of reasons for not a lot of reasons it's okay to do, but there's a lot of things that precipitate why people do things like that. A lot of times it's mental illness, and mental illness here in the United States today in the modern era of modern psychological care is bad. Back in the 80s, it was probably dreadful.
Right.
So I think that's why I said I think she's a little out of pocket here, but it doesn't matter because the lights flicker because the roaches are cutting the power. Don't worry about that. We're going to go back to the lighthouse where Homer and Richard are having one of those walk around in a circle moments, where they go walk in a circle and talk about what they need to do while Dr. Hubbard just sits there and watches them. They break down all of the knowledge they have about the spraying, how it'll kill the remaining humans, it'll make the eggs immune, it'll destroy the earth, what yada, yada, yada. And then, after she nods, they all go upstairs and they do something they can fix, which is turn on the lighthouse light, presumably. Back at Elias's house, he goes to the basement to turn on the emergency generator. After he does that, he goes to the breaker box, but it's full of roaches. They've learned how power is made. So he runs upstairs, and he and Beth try to put blankets under the doors to the basement to stop the roaches from coming in. And they're starting their battle with the roaches now. What is it? Elias calls Richard on the radio because they're under attack from roaches. Dr. Hubbard hears it, though, from upstairs at the light. And this is the moment where I'm like, I think she's trying to get rid of the mayor and his daughter so she can keep the sheriff to herself. Because she, because she goes down and says, he won't tell Richard that Elias is calling, and just says, hey, how about instead you use fire extinguishers since CO2 will slow down those roaches. Yeah. Roaches. And then Homer and Richard are working the light. And then when Dr. Hubbard gets back up there, he's like, I'm gonna go call and check up on Beth. And Dr. Hubbard's like, oh, I just talked to them. They said they're fine, and she said she loves you. I'm like, oh, Dr. Hubbard, you psychopath.
Well, like even later, he's like, you have no emotions. Like, why would I trust you? But it's just like in this scene, he's like, yeah, that tracks.
Yeah, okay, I trust you. like there's no way that she would like deliver that message if it was given to her. So, but downstairs we get a brief cut to the dead cat, which is kind of in a pupa looking thing, is starting to open up and like goo is coming out of it. Mm-hmm. I bet you something's going to happen, but we have to deal with more cross cutting in the meantime. Elias and Beth notice that roaches are coming in through the chimney. So they start a fire to burn them up. Then there's a bunch on the rug in the living room. So they spray that with fire extinguishers, and Elias is like curling it up. Elias sends Beth to go get the other fire extinguisher, but on the way, she notices there's a like buttload of roaches in the bathroom. I'm guessing the ideas are coming up through the pipes or something. And then Elias comes in, he tries to shut the door. There's like a bathroom rug caught in it. And he tries to like push the bathroom rug with his hand, and it keeps like getting roaches on it, and they're biting him. And he decides to make the dumbest self-sacrifice in the history of film.
Okay, I'm glad you agree with this.
Which is that he just opens the door, goes in, pulls the rug in with his foot, and then shuts the door with him inside of it. Like, why didn't he just open the door the rest of the way and kick it in and then just deal with the straggler roaches? Nah, who cares? He's gonna sacrifice himself. And
go on without me.
Yeah, he's like, save yourself, and like shuts the door. It's like, what a moron. So yeah, there he goes. He's dead. Beth runs upstairs to what I earlier identified as and continue to believe is her mother's room. But she looks down and sees the door has plenty of room for roaches to come through. Back at the lighthouse, another crosscut. Richard and Homer are waiting for Dr. Hubbard to flip the circuit breaker. While waiting, they hear glass break and Dr. Hubbard screams. They go downstairs and find her, but she shushes them because she's looking at something. And we hear the distorted meowing of a cat. But how can that be, Shane? The cat was eaten by roaches. Well, the movie's never going to give us an adequate explanation for this.
No. And it sucks that it took this long for that to happen.
Yeah, well, they're just learning.
The roaches?
Mm-hmm.
True.
So then we get the funniest shit of all time, which is a cat puppet being tossed across the room while the actors have to react to it. It's like so obviously just being thrown. It's like, and then it's like looking around, like, and you see it like in the background just flying across the room like it's been tossed. I'm like, oh geez.
That's probably my favorite scene.
And then we finally see the roach cat puppet in all its glory sitting on the desk. Basically just a really fake looking bloody flesh cat with antennae and mandibles to give it the roach appearance.
Yeah.
Dr. Hubbard, dude, is if she were a dude, she'd be 6 to midnight, man. She is in love with this thing. Right. And the sheriff sends Homer to go upstairs to get his gun. But then when Homer goes to make a run for it, the cat pounces on Richard and is like going to town on his face. And then he's like asking, like, say, Dr. Hubbard, like, Hubbard, do something, dude. And Hubbard waits like a calendar year to finally spray the cat with the fire extinguisher. Because again, she's a monster. She just loves seeing this thing in action.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I think like she's probably, if she was trying to make a move for this dude, I think she might have lost her chance. Unless she's counting on Beth being dead so she can like comfort him later.
Yeah, it's gaslighting.
Yeah. Made him like seriously gaslighting. Homer on the way down tries to do a maneuver that I don't understand, which is he, instead of going down the stairs and giving like the gun to Richard, he like tries to get the drop on the cat by climbing up on a shelf that's next to like the stairs. And of course, being the doofus he is, he knocks it over and falls full weight on top of the cat Roach, just smashing it. And Dr. Hubbard is pissed. I'm like, why did you climb up there? Just walk down the stairs and hand him the gun. Like, I don't understand his like Ezio Auditore move he was doing there. Like he's one of the assassin order from Assassin's Creed. Like, what was his plan? Yeah. So anyways, Dr. Hubbard's pissed at him. Back to Beth. She's hiding in a closet, hearing the sound of Roach approach outside the room. But she has like assorted blankets and towels stuffed into the door. So, you know, they aren't able to come in. Suddenly something drops on her and it's like, is it Roach? No, it's a brooch. Different thing. I don't know. It's some kind of little.
That was good.
Yeah, it's some kind of little brooch that she cries. So I assume it belonged to her mother and it like meant something like, it dropped on me. So my mother's watching out for me or some other.
Hey, guess who it meant nothing to us because they didn't tie her mother into the story at all.
Not really. Definitely not enough to notice that as something that belonged to her mom. I just assumed it did because I doubt her dad would have like a little brooch with like a face on it. Oh man, so many cross cuttings at this part. I can't wait till we get the group back together. Dr. Hubbard is cleaning Richard's wounds and he notices that she shows no emotion. And he says, I could be dying and you wouldn't show any sign. And she says, maybe we can test that theory. I'm like, I can't tell if she's flirting with him or not. If I were in that situation, I think she's flirting with me. But it's not clear.
I think she thinks she's flirting.
She's doing her best, dude. But she's also upset because her cat died.
True.
The cat
she did kill the cat.
The cat she sentenced to death was killed by Homer. Upstairs, however, Homer is able to get the lighthouse working. Yay. Homer MVP. But then we get back to the mayor's house and Beth emerges from the closet because she doesn't hear the sound of Roach approach any longer. So, the Roaches must have given up. She walks through the house and when she gets downstairs, which I believe is where her father's office is, she hears Richard on the radio calling for her. Talking to Richard, she explains, my dad's dead. I'm safe now. Roaches are gone for some reason. However, behind her, the door opens and her father's walking into the room, Shane.
Yeah, but like Richard asked her like 7 times if she's okay.
Hey, he just wants to make sure.
It's like, are you sure? And she's like, yeah.
I'm good.
He's like, are you sure?
I'm good other than being an orphan now.
Yeah.
But yeah, so she doesn't notice that her dad has walked in and is like acting as zombified as you can. He has like grayed out eyes and has a weird grimace and his hands out to his sides. Like he's full on zombie mode. But when she turns around and sees him, she's like, oh, father. And then like runs up to like hug him. Like, I don't know. It's like these people have never seen movies before.
Yeah, really.
But then when she hugs him, like we get a cut to his back, which is covered in blood. And then when she pulls her hands away, they're covered in blood. And then she notices, oh, my dad's dead and he's a monster now. And just as she comes to that realization, his body starts to split apart, revealing like a segmented thorax where his torso was and like long, gruesome arms growing out of his like arms and stuff like that. Like mandibles just shoot out of his mouth. This is a pretty gnarly scene. I liked it.
So do you want me to do this now or do you want me to do it later?
I know what you want to say.
Okay, well, you say it. Good.
You want to say that if this is what happens when you're killed by the roaches, why isn't the entire town of 700 people a group of rampaging roach zombies?
Yes. Why?
I don't think they thought about that, really.
I don't think they had the budget.
I mean, I'm certain they didn't have the budget for it.
Because then they're like, how do we rectify this? Oh, we'll just make like the roaches collected a lot of bodies and made a weird thing later.
Well, the other
See,
thing
like-
is like, I thought you were going to bring up the time to turn into that, because the cat takes
Well, that
like 2 days. Jake,
Right.
who is killed the same day as the cat, hadn't turned, but her
didn't see
dad
Mama
turns
Roaches.
later that day.
Man, you saw that bathroom though.
That was lousy with roaches. Yeah, they probably just got in there and like turned him into a mech.
It's a mech.
Yeah, he's like a roach mech.
It's like he's the new Power Ranger. He's
Megazord.
the Megazord.
Maybe they chose
Yeah.
him because he's mayor. Maybe they choose their hosts carefully. Like maybe the cat was like their test of this theory, and then they're like,
Right.
and then we'll get the mayor, and that's all we need.
Yeah, because the dog didn't happen.
Didn't happen to the dog.
All the humans.
Didn't happen to Jake. It's like, oh, what is a guy who runs a junkyard not good enough for you, roaches? So yeah, I'm gonna say
Yeah, I
if
just
it's
found it
anybody, maybe
weird.
it was like they chose the mayor on purpose, because it's definitely intelligence to the queen, and the rest of them followed the orders of the queen. So if I have to come up with an explanation that isn't they either didn't know or didn't have the budget, then it's that they chose the mayor specifically. How do you feel about that explanation? Does that work for you?
I mean, sure. It's just like there's a lot of decisions that they made in this movie that, yeah. Anyways, we'll get there.
Sure. Yeah, but like luckily zombie roach hybrid dad is very slow, which gives Richard or Elizabeth plenty of time to load a shotgun and start just blasting. And she just starts shooting bits off of him like every which way. Yeah, she finally gets one at like the center of like the thorax there,
Mhm.
and just like blasts his entire top off just as Richard arrives. It's like, hey, way to be a heroic boyfriend, dude. Let your girlfriend have to shoot up the undead roach version of her dad. So
I mean, that tracks though for him.
yeah, he's a doofus. But yeah, but as they prepare to depart, the lighthouse beam suddenly turns off because the internal clock thing switched to sunrise. Now, was that automatic or is that done by the roaches?
I don't know.
'Cause
I think the roaches did it. I think they ate the lines.
yeah, I think the roaches did it again because it seems more complicated than that when Homer gets there to fix it. So Richard wants to send Homer and Beth to fix it, but Dr. Hubbard's like, no. Beth knows where in the cave is because she's seen the nest. Title drop. But then we have a funny moment where like Homer's in the car and he's just sitting there and he's like, Chief, I don't know how to drive a car. So when Richard goes to talk to Homer about how to drive cars, Dr. Hubbard takes the opportunity to just like start driving away in his SUV. And Homer's like, women, huh? And then we cut to the SUV and Dr. Hubbard's like, men. It's like, I get it. Men and women are different. That's the height of comedy. Yeah, so Richard and Homer are driving, but suddenly there are roaches trying to get into the car. And they're like, we're fine as long as they can't get in here. But then they notice one of the back windows won't roll up. Like the power windows are broken. It's like, the only time you'd wish you had like hand cranked windows, my dude. So Homer has to start deploying the fire extinguisher inside the car, which also, by the way, it seems like he's deploying it in front of him. Like they're coming in through the air conditioning, which is confusing because it seemed like the window was the only way for them to get in, but I won't question it too much.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
Dr. Hubbard and Beth arrive at the caves. They carry a bunch of explosives into the area of the caves where the flesh sacks were hanging earlier, but the flesh sacks are not there anymore. Something growls in the distance, which attracts Dr. Hubbard's scientific attention. So she wanders off just as Beth is telling her, hey, we can just blow the caves up from here. We don't have to go to where the eggs are. It's like, well, you can't make that much sense around Dr. Hubbard, dude. She's already gone. In the car and out of extinguisher juice, Homer and Richard are fighting the roaches manually. By that, I mean smashing them with their hands. Whenever Homer goes to like poke one of the roaches at the tape deck, he pushes in the tape, which is Barber of Seville.
Yeah.
It's like
Such a weird. Oh my God. And then they also did that stupid, like, when they first ran into each other at the beginning of the movie where he got out of the car, went to the back, and then that guy got out and went to the front.
Oh yeah. These two are the
like-
slapstick comedy duo.
It's
of
like
the
the
movie.
three fucking stooges. I was like, come on, guys. It's not that kind of movie.
Well, it isn't sure if it wants to be that kind of movie or not. But bad news. Their vehicle is running out of fuel. What are they going to do? Oh, the roaches cease their attack and collectively begin to move in a direction. And then Homer explains, so it is a queen sending out signals. And I was like, wait a second. Like, I thought you already established that it was a queen. You're acting like this is just now a revelation. And then he like tries to explain it to Richard where, and he explains it in terms of the Jungian collective unconscious, but that's not what that is. Like, it's been a while since I've been in like grad school and understood what the collective unconscious is, but it's definitely not like a signal sent by a queen bug. Is it? Am I wrong?
Dude, I don't know.
I don't know.
I
definitely didn't think it was like a bug signal, but maybe I'm wrong.
Hey, I'll tell you this. I don't know if that's wrong, but I definitely know this movie isn't right. So
yeah, anyways, during his whole speech about like how this is like a Jungian collective unconscious that explains to you like what's right and what's wrong and what's good and what's evil and all this stuff, it's like that's not how that works. That's not how any of this works. There's a lot of people that do not have that collectively put in their brain. But Richard shoots the tape deck to stop the opera music. It's like, but when the car ran out of gas, it stopped? Like, I don't understand why it didn't. But anyways, but
you know in The Simpsons when Homer gets the gun? You ever seen that episode where Homer gets he gets a pistol?
I haven't really watched much of The Simpsons, so no.
Okay, so one of their skits, Homer gets a gun, and he does everything with it. He opens his beers with it. He's turning the lights on and off in his house by shooting the light switches and stuff. And this scene reminded me of that, where he just shoots the radio. It's like, dude, you could have just hit eject.
Richard's just tired of not being able to use his gun this whole movie. It's like,
I guess
I better be able to shoot something, God damn it. Yeah, so a bunch of cross-cutting here, so it's going to be a little bit crazy. So give me 1 second to read through the notes really fast to make sure I can get the cadence right. And here we go. So Beth sets the charges for 5 minutes. Richard leaves Homer at the lighthouse to get it turned on. Richard finds the boat that Jake had left behind earlier, so obviously Jake didn't return it. I guess he deserves to get eaten. So presumably he's going to use that to get to the caves. Dr. Hubbard is walking through like some purple ambient lighting to try to and finds the fleshy egg sacs. Dr. Hubbard, trying to get some samples from the fleshy egg sacs, does not notice the Dark Souls boss that has appeared next to her. Okay, here we are. We're caught up on that cross-cutting. How would you describe this thing? This thing that I guess is the queen, Shane? I call it a Dark Souls boss because it looks like a Dark Souls boss. It looks like From Software designed this thing. It's definitely easier to avoid than a Dark Souls boss.
4 heads?
It's definitely got 4 heads. And what would you say that they're all like skulls, or would you say they're in various states of decomposition?
I think the cockroaches discovered a Halloween store and grabbed a bunch of masks. That's what they look like to me.
Well, some of them look like skeleton heads. Some of them look like fleshy heads.
Yeah.
Some of them look like half-eaten flesh heads.
Yeah.
How many arms would you describe it as having?
At least 12.
Several. Yeah, definitely. How about rib cages? What's the number? Can you give me an over-under on rib cages?
5.
I counted 8. But
whole cages?
Yeah, entire cages. Because they go around the back, too.
You're not doing rib to rib?
No, I'm not doing rib to rib. I'm doing all around. Because they go around the back.
Damn, dag you.
So yeah, the Dark Souls boss, it's approaching.
Actually, you know what this looked like? The necromorphs in Dead Space.
I've never played Dead Space.
Oh my God.
They do have the remake on Game Pass. I was thinking about downloading it, but I'm worried it'll be too spooky.
Oh,
you know how I am about
that's a daytime game for you.
You know how I am about
you better
spooky
invite
games.
friends over.
Yes. You know how I am about spooky games. I got actually scared by playing the opening of Resident Evil 4 remake, and Jared was like watching me stream it. So like I needed support for that. Do you remember did I ever bring it up on the podcast before how I quit playing Resident Evil 2 remake because it was too dark in that one area, even though I paid money for the unlimited ammo guns? Like I could have killed anything, but I was too dark and I was too scared. I'm like, nah, I don't need this in my life.
Nah, that ain't me.
Eventually I'll get back to it.
All right.
I don't know. Horror movies and horror games is so different to me. Yeah, back to Hubbard, who doesn't notice that she's being snuck up upon by the sneakiest of Dark Soul bosses. But Beth arrives just as the monster manages to grab Hubbard and is like grabbing at her, and she's like screaming. and it just yanks her arm the hell off. Look,
yeah, off.
I did not see that coming. That thing's just like,
I did
bye.
not either.
It's like it's ripped it off, and she's not even like in some movies they'd be like, okay, now she's dead. No. They're gonna leave us with a screaming arm, like Hubbard with an arm like bursting with blood, like where an arm once was.
Yep.
She's screaming. Then what does it do? Like Richard, he arrives through the small cave opening from earlier, and like is going through that little cave opening to get to Beth, and luckily she's able to get to him because the queen, I'm guessing it's the queen, is distracted as it picks up Dr. Hubbard and moves her head into mandible range in order to use its little jaws to chomp her head in half in what might be the fakest looking crosscut I've ever seen in my entire life. Like, oh man, like those, like you guys have, like the special effects people on this have done other things. They could do better than that. That was dreadful. Like the arm looked rad, but the head looks kind of silly.
It was weird. They made a lot of weird choices.
Yeah, like the arm looked rad, and like that it ripped her arm the whole way off and just kind of like was giving her some time to like think about what she's done while it moved her head into mandible range. That was gnarly. Yeah. If they would have just cut away, maybe it would have been better, but they tried to show it and it just didn't work out. What do we got here? So Beth and Richard go through the hole and get out just in the nick of time as the explosives go off, killing the egg sacs, also the queen monster, the dark soul creature. Although I will say that they had just gone into the hole when that happened, so I feel like they still would have been caught up in the flames. But hey, like I said, I'm not CinemaSins. I'm not here to point out obvious issues. Homer manages to get the light on just as the helicopter is arriving, and they stop the spraying, so we're safe. Then we get a final scene where the camera, where Beth and Richard embrace in the dawn as the helicopter departs. Everything's safe, right? No, zoom in on Beth's shoe. There's a roach there. The nightmare isn't over.
The nightmare persists.
Yeah, and actually, so I actually put in my notes a question that I had that's like your question, like why aren't all the townspeople just zombie bug people? Why didn't they just spray? The explosion killed the queen and the eggs. So now they just need to kill the living ones and it's over. There are no more eggs, presumably. The eggs are all...
Because there had to be another one. Maybe.
They never made another one.
I know what I'm saying. Like they had to set themselves up.
Okay. But anyways, then we get the closing credits to the song Bug, Bug, You Bug Me.
Yeah.
So a little on the nose, which is right where we want bugs to be.
Yeah.
So there you go. The Nest. The spookiest movie on 6 legs, ladies and gentlemen.
So now we get into the McMurder of the movie, and I had a question. Do we count? Is it just humans that we count?
Well, there's nothing in the rule book that says it has to be just humans.
Okay, because I don't think we're going to have the same one.
Probably not.
Probably not. Do you want to go first? Do you want me to go first? Or do you want to do the countdown again?
I mean, the countdown only works if you believe we're going to have the same one, and we know we're not going to have the same one this time. So,
yeah.
Okay, I'll just say mine.
All right.
Jake.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
I thought the way they did the effects of him, like when he's under his blanket, like getting mauled up. Yeah, he's pretty gnarly looking. I mean, granted, the hand that fell off is a little too cleanly cut.
Yeah, and then it crawls away.
I mean, it just kind of moves. It doesn't crawl away. Yeah. But
well, the bugs are carrying it away.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, that's that part. I forgot about that.
Man, mine was the cat. The zombie cat in the
the zombie cat in the lab. That can't count. I know that's a villain. If you're gonna count cat originally dying, that's what I was gonna say. If you're gonna say like the cat or the dog, because those are both like really sad.
No.
But the zombie cat just getting smashed by a bookcase by dipshit Homer.
Yeah, like that would be my choice if I could pick anything. I get what you're saying. Probably mine's gonna be Dr. Hubbard getting the arm ripped off.
Yeah, I'm actually inclined to agree.
But the head sucked.
The head looked stupid, but the lead up to it, basically like the arm rip was dope. That thing looked mad.
It was very dope.
And then like the lead up to the mandibles to the head was sick. It was just the execution was bad. But like the amount of time it took to get that head up into them little bug jaws. Yeah, that was great.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I will give you and also me Dr. Hubbard's death. And also she had it coming, dude. She sacrificed a cat to get these roaches. She's a monster. Like, I'm glad she's dead. Well, the second time she wanted the cat to live because it was part roach. And then Homer smashed it.
That cat death scene was crazy.
When it got smashed by Homer on the bookcase.
Yeah, he said that line about works for, what do you say? I can't remember. It's like works. I don't know. I'll make it one of the songs.
Oh yeah. He says something like,
works for people, bugs, or something. I can't remember what he says. I don't know. Some weird about how you can squish them.
Yeah. He's like, it works every time or something like that. Yeah. I don't know what he says, but yeah, you're right. He does say that.
Yeah. It was like a Sex Panther moment. It was like, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I didn't put that in my notes. I should have put that line in my notes, but yeah, no, that was good. But by that point, the cat's a villain because it's become a hybrid bug.
For sure. Yeah.
So,
for sure.
Oh yeah. All right. McMurder the movie, Dr. Hubbard. Couldn't have happened to a nicer lady.
Well, speaking of Dr. Hubbard.
Is it time for the
judgment categories?
A bug too big, huh?
Anyways, as people who listen to this know, the judgment categories are where we will give a letter grade to 5 categories, and they are story, which includes writing, acting, effects, music, which can include sound, and then finally, cult factor, which is the little X factor that makes these movies so special. So for story and writing, do you want me to go first?
Yeah, I'm curious. We'll see how this. You'll set the pace here.
The problem is I've seen a lot of this before, and I'll see it again. Like it's been like it's very much like one of those like small seaside town like a Jaws, but like with this other stuff going on, and a shadowy corporation and a creature that kills. So it isn't the creator of that idea. And it doesn't execute it particularly well. And the most interesting parts, I think, are kind of accidental. So I'm probably going to have to go B for story and writing.
B?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
What were you going to give?
C.
I could be convinced to C.
So my major complaint about this movie is the pacing. Because the last 35 minutes of this movie are actually good. Like, I think they're interesting and fun and shit's happening. The first part of the movie, like it's an hour and 40 minutes. So basically an hour and 10 minutes of this movie didn't really even need to happen the way it did.
I think it's like an hour and 27 minutes, dude.
Whatever. But you get the point I'm making. Like, it's like, they could have easily just like, hey, like, all these scenes of them driving and going places and doing stuff. It didn't really develop anything. Like,
getting to know the town and the people and how they interact. Yeah, that's nothing.
No, but what do they do with it? Nothing.
They all die.
But they don't turn into fucking zombie bug people.
How would that help?
Which we know happens.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, that's one of the things I actually kind of respected about it was like the slow burn of it, where we get to know the town and the personalities and the vibe.
There was no exposition on Intech. There was no exposition on what kind of experiments they were doing. It was just, we're trying to get rid of a pest, a billion-year-old pest or whatever.
Well, I think the exposition is that it was what's her name doing it. It was Dr. What's her name? I forgot now that she's dead.
Hubbard.
Dr. Hubbard. It was Dr. Hubbard doing it. So like, those are the kinds of experiments they're doing, illegal ones.
Yeah, for me, I guess if the back half of this movie wasn't so good, I think it wouldn't have been as bad. But like,
see, I'm kind of like the opposite though. Like I
like
actually
two different
appreciated the slower burn where we get to know the community and like this like roach menace that's showing up. Now, granted, why the roaches at the beginning weren't biting and hurting people? They were just showed up. But
that's another problem.
I was wondering if those were the regular roaches trying to flee the other ones. Like trying to get away from them, so they're going to the places where they weren't allowed to go before, which is human houses, because they're just trying to get away from the ones that were killing them, and then that kind of precipitated in the ones that were killing them killing other things.
Yeah, maybe.
But
I don't know. I just felt like they could have done a lot more. I also don't like the little bugs. I think they should have went with bigger bugs.
I agree with the bugs. I think
or interspersed of bigger bugs, like mutated.
Yeah, but I feel like the fault of those goes in effects less than it goes in story. But you know what? If you want to do C, I'll do C because
I can give you the B.
Because one of the things when you brought up pacing, it actually reminded me that I don't like the tone, because I think sometimes it wants to be silly and fun, and sometimes it gives me like a spurned lover of a dipshit sheriff dead in a freezer, and I'm like, what was that? Like,
right. So exactly. That's what I'm talking about. Like there's things that they could have stretched out that would have been more meaningful, but they just glossed over it. Like I just felt like there was a lot of problems.
I'll go C. You've convinced me.
All right. Thank you.
What about acting?
Now this one I thought I actually liked the acting. I didn't think there were any glaring issues. I'd go B or A. You know, what was there wasn't bad. The only person I didn't like was Richard, but maybe that was because he was supposed to be not liked. I don't know.
Well, he's the main character.
Yeah, but sometimes they make like like Mark. Mark's a fucking
Mark's a
doofus.
dipshit. But no,
but he wasn't written to be a dipshit.
Yeah, like the performances that I put, like when I think like the better performances in this one, like number one, Dr. Hubbard, like she killed it, dude. Like. Yeah, just so with a glance, you could kind of see what she was trying to communicate. Like I thought she was so good. Mm-hmm. Really liked Homer. I thought Homer was really fun and kind of a doofus kind of.
Jake.
Yeah, Jake was cute for as long as we got him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that really the only weak link I have is kind of like Richard, but specifically Richard anytime he shares a scene with Elizabeth, because I think the chemistry those two had was negative. Like, I feel like I lost charisma when they'd be in a scene together. Like, I could feel myself getting drained of points. Like, I need a long rest to get my points back.
Yeah, and even, like, Lillian, with what little she's in the movie, like, when she she saw, like, them in the car, like, and she was sad. Like, you felt that. Like, I was like, okay, this is actually
that, and good. She had way more chemistry with Richard than 100% than Elizabeth did. That was ridiculous.
Yeah, and then her monologue where she kind of steps up and tells Elizabeth basically to fuck off.
Yeah,
that was good.
Yeah, it's just
I liked it.
I really like the performances. Like, if Richard wasn't there, I would say definitely A. But I think the others that are there, because for better or worse, you'd never get anything of Richard without other people to lean on, and most of his scenes are not with Elizabeth. So I think I'm okay to give it an A.
Yeah, for sure.
And I
think everyone else kind of brought it up.
I love Dr. Hubbard. Like, that performance was incredible.
Yeah.
Like, what an
she did
unlikable, terrible person, but like layered, unexpected.
Yep.
Next up is effects.
Man, I feel bad. Okay, so I was coming in here with a lot. I'm like, man, I had so many positives. And then you told me about this, they reused the explosions.
Oh, yeah, those two explosions.
Pisses me off. So I don't know.
Well, not the explosion of the cave though. That one was new.
Yeah. I don't know. I was coming in at a B. I'm getting like real big C vibes because some of the stuff they did was really cool, and some of the stuff they did was absolutely atrocious. And it's not like there weren't other examples of cool things they could have done that other people did. Like, you know what I mean? Like, this wasn't like a 1979, 1980. It's the first of its kind of thing, like you were kind of bringing up. I thought that for what they did with the cockroaches was cool. I liked like the house. So I'm mad that another thing, I didn't see the cockroaches a lot, which sometimes is good when you don't see the villain or the monster. but eventually you have to have that payoff, right? And when the payoff is just a close up of like a handful of roaches, it like, you know what I mean? It like doesn't really do it justice, but like the house scene was crazy how many cockroaches they had in there.
Yeah. And if I can like piggyback off of that, number one is a lot of those scenes where you see roaches is roaches.
Yeah, right.
And they actually like the stage where they filmed this, because they filmed the roach stuff in a studio, was infested with roaches for years afterwards.
I believe it.
They did a bad job of wrangling those roaches.
How could you? I mean, they just let them loose. And you know, but is that really effects? I don't know.
It'd be effective on me.
Yeah, right.
But and then like, it seems like you're kind of going to the negative, but I want to do a couple of positive things. The arm rip we discussed. I thought that was
great.
Amazing. That looked sick. The head thing, not as good, but luckily it was faster, so it didn't have enough time to dwell on it. The Dark Souls Queen monster thing, I thought it was awesome. That
was pretty rad.
When I saw that thing, like it was slow and stuff, probably because it was like a practical thing. But like, I just thought that thing was rad. It's just like, hey, this is what our queen is. It's just like 8 skulls and like 13 ribs and like however many arms, as many arms as we can fit on it. Like, it was so funny.
And they set that up earlier too, because when she goes in the cave, she finds all those bones laying around. So like they are setting it up. Like I'm just mad about that. If you would have told me about the fire, like with the explosion scenes, I probably wouldn't have even. It would have been B for me, pretty solid. And I'll still go B. I just want to get my gripe out that like you could have blown up one of them and just reused it. That's more forgiving to me than taking footage from another movie.
Well, well, that's a lot of times a budgetary thing though. But my last push for B is actually the transformation of the mayor into the mayor zombie bug dude. Like that was unexpectedly effective. Like when it started out, I was like, oh, he's just going to have like a little bug thorax and like little jaws. Then his arms and legs start stretching out. I'm like, oh, damn, he's up to something here. So I thought that was pretty cool. And then she starts shooting parts of him off until she kills him. Like that was, so I want to make a play for B. If that's what's on the table is B or C, I'm going to make a play for B for that, because I think that thing, and then the Dark Souls boss queen, and then the arm rip. And then I like the Jake death. I liked that a lot. So I think between those things, I think we can squeeze a B out of it.
Yeah, I agree. I just want to get my gripes in.
Yeah, gripe them up. Next, music and sound. I'm just going to get one gripe out of the way. The Roach Approach sound did not sound like Roach Approach. It sounded like electricity sparking or like some kind of grinding. I don't even know how you describe that, but it did not sound like Roach Approach.
Well, the closed captions called it bug noises or like buzz or bug.
They called it buzzing.
Yeah, there you go.
Like that's not buzzing. That's not buzzing. Yeah. But yeah. So yeah, the Roach Approach sound, did not care for it. The music, I was fine with it. I thought it was better during the lighter moments.
Yep. Yeah, for sure.
I don't think it did a great job of ratcheting up tension, but then when I thought about it, it's like, how many times was there an opportunity to ratchet up tension other than like the cave at the end, really?
That's what I'm telling you. Like this movie had a lot of weird choices on when they chose to do things and why. I don't know. I don't know. I'd say C, pretty average, I guess.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with C.
Yep.
So we gave C for the story and writing. Did we give an A for acting or a B?
A.
We gave an A for acting because they were good. Mm-hmm. A B for effects, a C for the music.
Yep.
Now cult factor. I can't give it a clear answer because I watched this movie. I rented this movie on VHS, dude, back when I was a kid. So I can't give it a clear thing. I love it. It's a seaside town with preachers. Yeah, like it's for me. Like, okay, here's the thing. It looks stupid. It sounds stupid. It's mostly stupid, but it's 100. It's like an hour and 27 minutes. So it's a tight 87 minutes of roaches making noises and sometimes killing people, mostly off screen. So it's an A for me for cult factor. It always is. It's always an A for me.
And the ending was good too. I liked it where it zoomed in on the bug menacingly. I thought that was pretty funny.
But it was just a roach. It's like,
Yeah.
oh shit, it's a roach.
I wish it was just rubbing its hands together. I know they couldn't make the roach do that, but
Put a gleam in his eye.
yeah, that would have been awesome. But yeah.
Yeah, that would have been cool. But okay, so we're gonna do the A for cult factor, despite how shitty the rest of the movie is.
Well, it's not shitty. It just wasn't like, I felt like they could have done so much with this stuff. Like, and then it would have been cooler if they would have had like 5 bigger bugs.
Yeah, some big bugs would have been cool.
Yeah.
Or if they'd done more with the Dark Souls boss. Like, I wish
the zombie people.
Yeah, we only got glimpses of greatness, but the glimpses that they give us are introduced in a way that make them awesome, which is why we want more of them. Like watching the dad roll in there like zombified, or like watching the Dark Souls boss like coming up to the lady as she's trying to scrape like, a bunch of stuff off of those like flesh nuts hanging on the wall. Like, it was cool. So yeah. All right, yay! I got the A for cult factor, everybody. But Shane.
But what? Yes.
We're not done here.
We're not?
No. We have our last category, that final hat on a hat that we don't need, but we do it anyway because it's our podcast and no one can tell us not to do it. It's the D roll.
It's a tete-a-tete.
What's it, head to head?
I don't know.
Well, as fans may note, the D roll is where we put that last little category in, which is cult classic, B movie, grindhouse, or trash.
I think this is a cult classic.
Really?
Yeah, because like, again, I don't think it's a B movie because I don't know. Like, it delivers on a lot of stuff, right? And then what it does deliver on is fantastic. So like almost like most of my criticisms are because they did other stuff so well, right? Like, it would almost been better for them if they just would have kept it even keel the whole time.
Yeah, if they hadn't shown us some glimpses of greatness, it probably would have been more difficult. But I still think, and also though, we watch these movies 2 or 3 times before we even record.
Right, for sure.
And
yeah, we're nitpicking.
Yeah. But I was fully prepared to give it the B movie. I was going to like begrudgingly accept it.
I don't think it's a B movie. I mean, like to me, like, there is a lot going on here, and they did put there, like, I don't know. This is what gets kind of weird about like putting them in a box in a category, but I don't think it's a B movie.
I just think you have to go into it and expect it to be more of a human movie than a bug movie. Like, a lot of these movies, it's like, oh, it's a creature feature, so I got to get ready for bug movies. Like, focus more on the personalities that you're dealing with than the critters. Like, focus more on the fact that this doctor is an absolute menace. Like, that kind of thing.
And it suffers from what happened with Chopping Mall as well, right? Where it's like they knocked it out of the park with the box art. And
yeah.
Like, that, again, to me, like, you set the expectation, I want giant fucking bugs. And they just don't have them. It's okay.
Yeah,
I'll watch 8-Legged Freaks and be fine.
I know. Well, you better every single day.
Every day.
But yeah, no, that's the thing is, like, whenever I first watched this when I was in high school, I think, because I think I watched it for the first time in high school because that was the era where I was old enough to rent the movies that were like rated R. And did I say this on the podcast before, where like this video store in Titusville had like a deal where you get a free general release like VHS rental for every like A you had on your report card.
That's amazing.
So me and like my buddies would just go in and just like rent a ton of movies and just spend a weekend just watching all these like schlocky horror like VHSs that we like could never rent when we were kids and stuff.
You guys put that store out of business?
Well, no one was renting those movies anyway. So
right.
Yeah. I don't even think they had a thing where you had to rent a new release alongside it. You just do that. I think we usually did rent one anyway, just to like balance the scales a little bit. But
right.
yeah. So Yeah, when I first watched it though, I was very disappointed. And then like when I've watched it since though, I've warmed up to it a lot more, which is why I'm cult classic territory. So that's why I want to temper expectations. Don't expect a giant bug. And I think we've made it clear that there isn't one. So,
There is no giant bugs.
well, that was
Well,
there.
there's no giant cockroaches.
There is a giant Dark Souls boss.
Yeah, there's a couple giant things, but not giant cockroach bugs.
Not wholly anyway. So just keep that in mind. And then beyond that, yeah, cult classic. You heard it here first, folks. The Nest. Not They Nest.
Not They Nest.
Well, we did it.
We did it. We got through the bugs.
Yeah.
We beat Joe Rogan's Uncle Touchy Puzzles basement. So
Is that a thing?
I don't know. He was on Fear Factor. That's why I brought it up.
I thought the Uncle Touchy's puzzle basement was like a joke that Patton Oswalt made.
It was, but I was just saying because Joe Rogan, I was just trying to not talk about Fear Factor, but I brought it up anyway. So
Perfect.
Perfect.
Well, what do we do now, Shane?
What do we do now?
Should we talk about what our next film is?
I'm so excited for this.
I know you are.
I can't say it. Like literally, I've been trying to practice it and muting as we're getting through these segments. You're gonna have to do it.
What do you mean? You've been practicing?
Like, yeah, because I can't get the way. Just say it. Do it.
Slithis?
Slithis, yeah. And I keep like lisping too hard, and it keeps fucking it up. And I'm like,
You mean Slithis or Spawn of the Slithis?
Spawn of the Flippeth.
Spawn of the Slithith.
Yeah.
So yeah, Spawn of the Slithis is
See?
Spawn of the Slithis or Slithis. I think that it's on Tubi, it's just Slithis.
Yeah.
But if you want to look it up on IMDb to see if you'll like it or not, it's called Spawn of the Slithis there.
Yep.
And it's two firsts for us. One is it's rated PG. Oh no. But also this is before the era of PG-13, so you never know what you're about to get.
You don't.
And on that note, it is our first movie from the 70s.
Oh no. Slit his.
Slit is. So yeah, Slithis having come out in 1978.
1907. The finest of the 20th century, mid 20th century movies.
Yes. Yeah, no, this one is kind of hard to find. It is part of the Shout Factory TV thing, but it is not on Pluto TV, even though they have a deal with Shout Factory as far as I know. I could only find it streaming for free on Tubi. So if you want to watch Slithis, or also known as Spawn of the Slithis, then you've got to
or
go
Slit His in Croatia.
Or Slit His. Is that what they actually call it? Does that say that?
No.
Oh, you jag. Anyways, Slithis. Spawn of the Slithis is on Tubi. Why don't you try to say it some more, Shane?
The more you say it, the less it sounds like it should be a word.
Slithis. What is the tagline again that you liked so much, or just part of why we picked it?
Hold on, let me look.
I found it if you
haven't. Hell hath no fury like Slithis. That's so fucking good.
Hell hath no fury like Slithis.
That's the episode title, guys. So I don't even have to do my job for me.
It writes itself.
And
then next we'll do Empire of the Ants. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just excited, like how I was so excited about the fact that John Lansing, is that the actor's name? He's Empire of the Ants. It's like, get this man his Oscar immediately.
Get this man his Oscar.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it was Robert Lansing. Sorry, not John Lansing. Yeah, Robert Lansing from Empire of the Ants. Well, I think that'll cover everything.
Yeah.
Unless we want to talk some more about Slithis and how we just picked it moments before we began recording. And I spoiled it by saying something about it earlier in the episode, but hopefully no one noticed.
I mean, how do you not notice Slithis?
Slithis just comes out sometimes.
Just comes out.
Yeah. So, yeah, then we did it. We got an episode out.
We did it. I think we did all the housekeeping at the top. I don't think we have anything else, but just thanks everyone for listening, tuning in, sharing the show. It means a lot to us, so thank you. And if you have any criticism, send it to Stefan. He'll deal with that. So
Email me
email
at www.goaway.com/org.
or subscribe on our website and then submit your complaints there.
If you can, who even knows what that does?
I mean, you can. No one. I don't know what happens after you do it.
At the top of the show, you said all of our socials, right? Like
Yeah.
Dark Side Drive-In on. Wait. Is it?
Yeah, we're Dark Side Driving on everything, except for X. I think we're the Dark Side Driving.
I thought we were the Dark Side Drive-In on. No, we're Dark Side Drive-In on X. I think we're the Dark Side Drive-In on
Instagram and Facebook. Yeah. So do us a favor, go to the website, subscribe to it, and let us know what happens. Kind of curious. So
I'm thinking about doing it just to like see what happens.
Do it. I have no idea. I hope something cool. I don't know, but yeah.
Oh, and I finished my Godzilla -1 review, so I'm actually working on another one. For a holiday themed movie that I watched that I think I talked about briefly before. It's a Wonderful Knife. So
yes,
hopefully I can get that one out before it leaves Shudder. But I think it's a Shudder original, so it probably won't ever leave Shudder, but I'm still going to write it.
And then we also need to post and do the Old Gods review because they're like messaging me, asking me for updates. So
we'll do that.
Yeah,
we'll
do that done soon.
We're going to do that as like a separate
right
episode, right? Yeah. So
Yep.
Stay tuned or stay peeled for that.
Stay peeled. Whatever. It works. All right.
Let's get out of here. It's the middle of the night.
Yep. I've been Shane.
And I've been cut my life into pieces. I am a Papa Roach.
Oh my God.
No, I'm Stefan though. That's who I am.
Yeah. Are you?
Well,
see, what's funny is I can just get rid of you saying that and just end the episode after you sing that. So.
You can, but you won't get the part where I do my spooky noises.
Shit. Keep it spooky.
Although I guess you just cut out the part in between, and then
I could
you
layer
literally
it.
can just edit anything out.
I'll layer it. You'll be like, I got my life into pieces, and be like, ooh, underneath it. It'll be great.
Sure, that's how vocal cords work.
Yeah, we'll see.
Cut my life into pieces. I am a Papa Roach. Perfect.